the other day. He wanted to make sure the shit was gonna be fair. I said, yeah, ain't nobody gonna be on there but him and Josh. He gonna beat him up by himself. Definitely don't need no help.
Okay.
I'll talk to him. Interesting conversation. Interesting. It's all good. We should be about live right now. Indigenous speaker. What the hell is you eating, Buja? Well, that must be. What is that noise? What?
Tighten up.
What I do? That ain't me.
No, tighten up.
What?
You know what I'm talking about? Tighten up.
You know what?
Yeah, what? Where you sitting at this weekend? Home. Tighten up.
Oh shit.
Yeah. You don't want to talk about that, huh? You been quiet because of Baltimore
Nah.
lost.
I ain't quiet on that. That was a good ass whipping right there, yo. Nah, yo, they
Y'all
got
too
beat.
cocky, man. Too cocky.
Nah, that wasn't it, yo. They just got beat by a better team that
Yo,
day.
y'all was supposed to win that game.
No, we wasn't, yo. No, they came out there and bullied the bully, yo. That's what we do around here. We bully the bully, yo. And I think if given the same circumstances, they wouldn't have rested that for 3 weeks. So you can't rev the engine up after 3 weeks. I think we all learned that lesson. And Lamar, he's young. This is second. That's not an excuse.
He
That's
threw like 60 times.
Huh?
He threw like 60 times.
Yeah, that was. I ain't mad at him for doing that, dog.
I'm mad because he should have ran.
Nah, it was an even ratio through the first half, right? The throwing and the passing was equal. But then after the third quarter, after he did a couple mistakes, they ain't had no choice. But I mean, he in the playoffs before Brett Favre and all them was. All the great quarterbacks, they wasn't in the playoffs their first and second year, yo. I'm just telling you.
Cue the violin. Cue the violin.
Ah, man, come on, yo, man. Listen, man. Come on, yo. You got a running back that's 250 pounds, yo. Jim Brown, resurrection, dude.
So
you
what?
Can't make no mistakes against them.
Not Jim Brown, Eddie George.
Nah, that was Jim Brown. No, it was Jim Brown. No, Eddie George wasn't no 240. No.
Man, Eddie George.
That's Jim Brown right there. You ever seen Jim Brown?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Jim Brown running, yo. That wasn't Eddie George, man.
Okay.
You tripping. Yo was running over people like it just. You see the way he pushed my main man in the back, yo?
Yeah, I seen all that.
Oh, he's like, get out the way.
He turned him into a lead blocker. He stiff-armed him and turned him into a lead blocker.
Hey, look, Black African power, y'all. What's good? What's happening? A well-organized lie defeats a disorganized truth. Every time. Woo-hoo-wee. Man, y'all already know what it is, man. Look, it's God killing the house. We come to do, we got to do. We gonna do, we got to do. We standing tall, we standing strong. Hey, I'm a raw squad up. Pseudo killers on deck. Man, we at the after party, man. You know, we drinking a little bit of water, drinking a little bit of drinks, man. And we having a good time. Man, I hope y'all caught that powerful build on Asar Hotep's channel. Yep, it was a fair one. It was a well-organized one. I think everybody got to speak. It wasn't a debate, though. It wasn't. What it was a critique of a video that was put out about 3 years ago. Was that like 3 years ago, Buja? Yeah, about 3 years ago, right? It's been that long, huh? 2-3 years ago, right?
Right. It was a video from 2017 by brother Joshua Cain.
It's about 2 years ago then, 3 years ago. So yeah, you know, we out there lurking. You might get it in 1 year, you might get it in 2 years, you might get it in 3 years, but you're gonna get it. Ain't nobody getting away with nothing. But I'd like to give a shout out, you know what I'm saying, to the brother Joshua Cain and the team you belong to for just stepping up. And that's all anybody ever wanted, was somebody just to step up and defend your damn position, right? If you can talk the talk, you better walk the walk. Okay, so my humble opinion, I like when the younger brothers, you know, step up and challenge, right? Just to have the heart to get good learning lessons. You know what I'm saying? That was a good, hell of a learning lesson. So for all y'all out there that want to start saying somebody ain't this when they ain't that, I think what y'all need to start realizing is, one, you know what I'm saying? We the first team to start saying, look, check this out. Everybody need to source the hell up, right? We need some sources, we need some references. But y'all jumped out the damn class before the rest of the class, right? We talked about people having degrees and how powerful a degree can be, right? We talked about that, right? And we put emphasis on having degrees. But like I said, y'all left the class too damn early. What you need to know is a person's propensity and vigor and study habits and methodology exceeds all of that. Because you can have a doctor's degree in the subject, right? And another person don't have a degree in that subject, you know what I'm saying, but got the methodology down and understand the subject and can knock your ass out. It's about the information and the data at the end of the day. That's what it's really about. And this notion about having a degree and not having a degree is ridiculous, because I can bring up later on, I'm gonna bring up a list of autodidacts. These people are self-taught in a time where information wasn't even flowing like that. So now the time we're in right now, it's a good time for people to be self-taught on a lot of different things. So it's people like Benjamin Franklin, Charles Darwin. They had no degrees. Thomas Young. They have no degrees in their subjects that they added to. So I don't think it's fair, right, for y'all to make us have to have degrees in said subjects. Not to mention, Asar has a degree, right? Absolutely, in computer science. Dr. Oyama has a degree in engineering. Sister Naya has a degree in psychology, and the list goes on, right? But that don't mean that they gotta do work in that particular field. That's not how the Europeans was allowed to do it. They was allowed just to do the damn thing, and they grandfathered in stuff for them all day long. So we're not gonna sit around and think that we don't have a group of scholars that can challenge the European academia with or without degrees. We'll get into later on about Dr. Ben and what degrees he had and what he didn't have, right? The point, John Jackson, Dr. Ben, John G. Jackson, my man that wrote Nature Knows No Color, Joel A. Rogers, they ain't had no degrees. John Henry Clark, none of them had degrees. Look at the time period they was in. Look what they was going through, and we can talk about that a little bit. But I really want to talk about this conversation, man. Now, as a student of the game, I enjoy hearing crystal clear points, right? And I enjoy watching them dance, watching them get down. I enjoy that. And my quick take, and you know I'm biased though, because I've been privy to the argument for the last 3, 4, 5 years. I fought it in the beginning based off my limited understanding of the whole subject matter. But I always start out not understanding stuff. I always start out where most people are, but I don't stick with it. I've learned that you can get off your damn position and change your mind based off of more available information. So I spend time with Asar and I understand his arguments. And I don't think we should put a cap on African genius. I don't think we should put a cap on human genius. Like if a brother is talented, let them do what they do. Let the chips fall where they fall. We do not promote pseudoisms, right? But we absolutely positively don't put a cap on what a person can do and cannot do. So the statement was made routinely that Asar does not have a degree, and that would mean he's not a linguist. Well, I be damned. If that ain't the dumbest thing I done heard in years. I'm gonna tell you this for the last time. You do not have a degree in a said subject to be excellent in that subject and to challenge academia. Brother Wuja does not have a degree in reading Meta Nature or degree in Egyptology. I just want to say that, right? But I would bet my damn money on Wuja against any of them dealing with the language. I put my money on them. We can line them up and send them down on that. I promise you that. So y'all need to know what we represent. We represent brothers and sisters that got degrees, right? And add to field studies that they don't have a degree in. We represent brothers and sisters that don't have no damn degree and self-taught themselves, right? Understand methodology. We just represent the daggone people that want to give our people correct information and correct knowledge. We represent respecting the elders. We also represent correcting their ass when they wrong. At least I do. I'm gonna always be respectful though. So at the end of the day, man, let's have this little conversation, figure out what y'all thought. I'm gonna let you start off, Ujai. You know what I'm saying? Yo, you know, you've been at the forefront. Based off of me doing some study on Greenberg, based off him learning languages, then I guess we would have to put you in the linguist field, brother. So what you think about the conversation though?
Okay. Well, let me. I just want to comment on what you opened up with about the degrees. Here's where it's very strange, and so here's the challenge. Asar Imhotep is being cited as not being a linguist, and therefore, because he doesn't have a degree. So what the accusation is that Asar is not a linguist because he doesn't have a degree, and therefore, because he doesn't have a degree and he's not a linguist, therefore his work is not to be taken as, you know, serious or credible. So that's the implication. So I want to make that clear. What's being said is that Asar's work is not credible because he doesn't have a degree, and because he doesn't have a degree in linguistics, he is not a linguist. But here's the thing. Greenberg, and Asar quoted him tonight. I'm glad he read that out of Greenberg's own words.
No, leave that out. Leave that out. Don't say that. Leave that alone. I'm gonna be
okay. Well, I'm saying, but these other heavily cited linguists that we all would call a linguist, they don't have degrees either. Christopher Ehret does not have a degree in linguistics, but yet he's brought up in linguistic conversations all the time, every day, all day, and he's called a linguist. And so that's where the logical fallacy or the inconsistent logic exists. To say that Asar's work is not credible because he doesn't have a degree in linguistics, therefore he's not a linguist, you would have to say the same thing about these other guys. And so that's where the fallacy happens. That's where the inconsistent logic is. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that point that was raised, you know. So that was that. But hey, you asked me what I think about the conversation. So I'm just gonna give my high level overview, and then I guess as the conversation go, I'll chime in like in more details. But overall, I think the conversation went very well. I think that I was in the chat, reading the chat. I wasn't chatting in the chat, but I was reading it. And I was trying to tell people to like chill out on the chit chat so everybody can pay attention, you know, listen. But I think it was very fair. I saw a lot of people saying that Asar's channel is biased. This is biased and stuff like that, which was crazy to me because Asar allowed the brother Joshua to speak his full time. He didn't interrupt him. He played the clip of the video. Asar addressed it, and then he allowed the brother Joshua to reply, and he never cut him off. So for people to say that it was biased and everything, that was real strange to me. And it seems like that's just a playing victim or crying as far as that goes. But I think it went very well. I think that it was a good conversation. And the way that Asar had laid it out in terms of playing a clip, that way Asar can never be accused of misquoting Joshua. You know, he played his audio verbatim. You know, he played it on the air, not only just the audio, but the video. And then Asar paused it and then addressed it and everything. So I think that's a very good way to do that. And then Joshua was able to even expound. But what I noticed is that when Joshua did speak, he never addressed Asar's points in terms of his points of disagreement with Joshua's video in the first place. It was always appearing to bring up something else, or as Asar said, move the goalpost. So I thought that was unfortunate that occurred. But outside of that, it was a good thing. I think hopefully the audience learned a lot through there. Now I don't know if Joshua got the points that Asar was saying, giving, But you know, that remains to be seen. But I think it was good. I think Joshua did a good job in terms of you know, speaking back and forth. It was mature. You know, it wasn't no silliness, no drama, you know, any of that good stuff. So that was very good. But that's just my high level just observation of the whole conversation.
Yep. Yep. I agree with you on that. We need more brothers to step up like that, man. I kind of felt, I ain't gonna lie, I kind of felt good that the young man stepped up. I knew he was gonna get the brakes beat off of him though. And then at the end, the brakes just fell off of him. But I mean, that's part of it, man. You got to take your lickings in this game right here, man. And if you don't got no heart to step up to take the lickings, man, what's the point of it? You know, what's the point of scholarship? You know, just making videos and not standing on your position. I think what we all learned, though, let me tell you the big thing I learned from that. I'm gonna let somebody go next. Man, under no circumstance do you challenge a damn man who can actually demonstrate what the hell he's saying. You just can't do it. At a certain point, you just got to be the student in that. If a person can demonstrate that they can read meta nature, you can't say they can't do it and what they're saying is wrong. You can grab all kinds of sources, you can do all that. At the end of the day, if they can demonstrate, well, this says this, at a certain point, yo, you got chill. Like I always defer to them on that type stuff. Woo-jah all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll fight, okay, and then when it comes to the point where I reach my level of what I can go past, I gotta defer to them and say, well, wait a minute, so what does this mean right here? So we had a good discussion on, I don't want to change this thing, but we had a good discussion on what the Egyptians believe. And so Wu-jah, like he do, you know, we had fight it out online, a fight out. Then he called me up and just hit me with some common sense stuff. Like at a certain point, you gotta know if you read any text, for instance, that somebody is walking on water, in your damn mind, all you can see is them walking on water. You don't know what the hell the person meant when they was writing it. I mean, I couldn't get past that. Wasn't no getting past that. I've learned how not to try to get past the stuff that you just can't get by. So I think the good lesson for everybody to learn is if you cannot demonstrate, right, your damn argument, you got to take a back seat. You just got to. So the linguistics thing is a very hard field, right? It requires you to understand math and computer science. It just does, right? If you can't demonstrate it, you don't know if Greenberg is right or wrong. You don't know if Asar is right or wrong. You just don't know. So you have to build up the understanding of it, you know what I'm saying, and just learn. So it's just crazy how we do that now. So who want to speak next? How about you? Sheffrin? You was in the building, right? You seen a little bit of it, right, Sheffrin?
Yeah, what's up, y'all? I seen a little bit of it, but I'm going with what you said. I don't understand linguistics enough to be able to check Asar. So it was just a conversation that I listened to. There wasn't too much I could critique from it, but I think both of them handled themselves well in a debate.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't a debate. It was a discussion of the video. Let's get that straight. It wasn't.
Well, true, the critique of the video.
It was a critique of the video. So I'll give you some background information on it. There's a language called Afro-Asiatic and European guy, anthropologist. I like to make that clear, just an anthropologist, right? That actually self-taught himself linguistics. So he's definitely considered a linguist, but he taught himself that. So he was afforded the right to teach himself to be a linguist, right? And I'd be damned if I won't support my brothers and sisters in doing the same damn thing. All right, Brother Reggie reads the meta nature, right? That will put him in the field. Brother Wu-jah, Speed reads the goddamn meta nature, and that squarely puts him in the field. So I'd be damned if I let people on the outside who can't do the work tell them brothers what they can and cannot do. Okay, Brother Reggie has demonstrated to me. He's taken me to the damn museums, which is, I think we understand what going to a museum is and how important it is for you to take your family to the museums. First of all, it's full of goddamn stolen African artifacts, man. That's the first thing should come to your mind. Stolen African artifacts. They didn't ask the people could they have it. All right. They just was taking that stuff. All right. Now these days, you know, Egyptian antiquities and stuff like that, you know, they put a lot of stuff on loan and now it's done. But those people that create those artifacts, they wasn't afforded the opportunity to really, you know, make a statement on whether it can go here, it can go there. So this is an important place to start. I'm gonna say it again. The museums are the perfect place to start your studies on Africa. Oh man, like go there for the weekend. Get a hotel, go to Washington, D.C. You got some of the largest museums in the world, Smithsonian, largest in the world, man. Spend a weekend there, go to the African American Museum. You know, I took my family there. I mean, just beautiful. Do that. Go to New York, right? When you get to New York, contact Brother Reggie. Let him walk your ass to death to the museum. Okay? The first time they even realized, which was crazy, that there's a fucking library in the museum, was like, Reggie was like, here, move that curtain right there. I was like, what? He said, move that curtain. I moved the damn curtain. It was a big, giant library. So all museums got libraries. You know, cataloging artifacts and just like serious work right there. So that's where Reggie spent his time at. So, you know what I'm saying? I just want to say this again. I'm going to iterate it again. If you can't demonstrate a person is wrong, and the only thing you can do is bring sources of other people's opinion on the subject matter, you know what I'm saying? You got to relax. So if you're going to argue with a biologist who's demonstrating in the lab, you can't even argue with him. You can say, well, based off of my understanding of this right here, this is the way a cell is supposed to divide. Now, can you demonstrate how the cell don't divide like that? And then if they demonstrate that, you know what I'm saying, then you gotta say, wow, that's very interesting right there. So, you know, you want to add something to that, Reggie? I mean, this must be on silent somewhere. You done?
No, I'm here. I think going to ancient Egypt, going to Egypt and looking at ancient Egypt is an investment. Not everybody can do it, and it takes it takes some planning. It takes some time. In between that, there is the literature that exists in bookstores and in libraries, and then there are courses in which you can take to be familiar with the language. It's important, I think, that if you're going to talk about the field, you should have some language capabilities. Not everybody can read it very, very quickly, very fast. It definitely takes time. There are people who they do this with a certain high level of acumen. So Ujawo, he does it with a certain level of acumen in the people he trains, and then there are others who do it with a certain amount of acumen. But in your course of study, one thing is important, is Ankh said about the libraries, is that the libraries contain primary material. A museum cannot stand without a library, because all the items in a library has to be cataloged. And so you need a team to put together a museum. And then once that museum as it's being constructed, you need to catalog when you get the item, where you got the item, what provenance did you get the item, and then if you can, translate what the item says. And then oftentimes museums have libraries because they have to substantiate other facts about the material from other authors. So we're lucky. We have major world-class museums in the United States. The Metropolitan Museum of Art is one. The Brooklyn Museum is another. We have the one that's in Penn State. Is incredible because it deals with the period of Merenptah. That's there, And then you have the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. And then you have other smaller libraries where you have, museums where you have collections that flow through it. And you have libraries that it floats through it. But one thing about studying this culture of this people is that the materials that flow through are very important to try to get access to, so you can get a flavor of actually what's going on, instead of having people just lecture to you and they may be wrong or right, but the only way that you can verify it is really through reading and then associating with groups of people who actually do this work. I'll stop.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Sean. I know what you're gonna say. You had your damn comment posted up there forever.
Man, listen, man. All right. So first, I want to say ETM Hotep, really Sean, welcome in peace. My name is Sean. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. If you watched the conversation between Asar Hotep and Joshua Cain, you probably saw me say a bunch of things. When the discussion started, and I'm just going to be honest with you, I never watched Joshua's critique. Never watched it. So what was being said was the first time that I could hear it. So in my immediate response, the first thing that I actually said when the first point was played was, this is not correct methodology. I was questioning the method from the beginning, because when you're taught and over you're taught methodology, why is it important? And then you go out and you get all these sources pertaining to how to do research methodology, what's the steps, why is it important, and you illustrating all of these pointers in regard to that, you start to notice it quickly. So yeah, you'll see me on Garfield's channel talking about methodology. You hear me, preaching about methodology. And this was why. This was a clear case of why we harbor away at these points. Because from the beginning, he was already, arguing from ignorance, and then he committed the fallacy by appealing to authority, and then he questioned why Asar was saying that he was appealing to authority. And the reason being is because of his methodology. He relied on someone else's position that didn't counter the information that Asar was saying, but he just did it just because he felt like it did not agree with Asar's premise from point one in the position of the video. So I wanted to understand why I needed to retire the book. So when he did that and he relied on somebody else, I immediately had a problem with it. Like, no, we already wrong from the beginning. So how could we get back on track to find out, can he demonstrate? So he couldn't demonstrate anything. We found that out. He doesn't study linguistics from that perspective. We found that out. He even admitted some errors in there. We found that out. But he didn't want to admit to some of the other things that was asked of him in that, and we found that out. But in all fairness to Brother Joshua Cain, after actually listening to what he was doing, I just commend the brother for stepping up. I did say that in the chat. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. He did have, for years, he had a lot to say on Facebook. And I just think that based on what he had to say on Facebook, and then when you listen to his critique, it wasn't warranted. It just failed. It failed to meet a scholastic attempt at this, and it was all due to shady, faulty methodology.
You say shady.
It just seemed more personal. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like you, and I still feel like that. Just based on the conversation in the comments, it was more so I just have a disagreement with you, and y'all think y'all better than type of a build to me than the information itself. I just think the critique was from a biased perspective of, I just don't like you. Scholarship. That's what I think. It was personal.
Yeah, y'all think we better than everybody. It ain't that we think we better than everybody else. People be thinking that we better than everybody else. And then, in all fairness, though, man, the college community wasn't built to fuck with the families. They just wasn't. They was built to regurgitate information. They was built to actually lean too heavily on all the elders. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't built to actually give an honest critique of the people that came before them. And they wasn't built to stand on the shoulders. They would say we're standing on the shoulders of our elders, but goddamn, if you stand on the shoulders of your elders, then you stand on their damn shoulders. And when you find something was wrong, you just say, okay, this doesn't match up with today's reality of scholarship and science. We'll add that to it. You know what I'm saying? Because the elder was wrong in different things, that one does not make them pseudo. Y'all have misused the term that was put out there, you know what I'm saying, for y'all to really know the difference between some good work and some nonsense that certain people have been promoting for eons. You know, that term pseudo, man, you need to really look at them, understand what it is. An elder making a mistake in scholarship does not make him pseudo. You know, like Benjamin goddamn Franklin, they call him the father of electricity, and he got the shit all wrong. Do y'all call him a pseudo? No, they don't. You know, I find a lot of times Europeans will mark some of our elders pseudo, right? This is some bullshit because they don't agree with their conclusions, right? And not only do they don't agree with their conclusions, we are not allowed to make any mistakes in scholarship. I don't care what the hell you done did. Diop's, Theophile Banger, and Walter Rodney, man, they was in the UNESCO conference, and it was a hell of a discussion there. A lot of times the community get it wrong because they don't read the people of Egypt and the decipherment of the Meroitic script, right? You can get that PDF from UNESCO right online, Google that, right? And read the discussion they had. No Diops ain't coming in and wearing them out. That ain't how that went. It was a good damn discussion, man. What the notes did say was that Shikant Diops and Theophile Bang and Walter Wright and them was the most prepared. And watch this. This is what Wuja, Asar, and Reggie and all them and all the families are doing right now. It said more study, right, in Africa from an African perspective needs to happen using all available science, is what they said. So when we start to do that, you know, our own people be trying to freeze us out of the situation. People that's supposed to be smarter than that. So that's how I feel Team Osiris, you know what I'm saying, be doing. Man, the directive is to, when you find somebody that's actually trying to change some ideas, man, you supposed to get in and learn from them and see why is they going against that? Why would Asar, why would John Crowden Bowley, why would Diops, you know what I'm saying, and what's the other dude named who actually started the treaties, not Diops, and Bowley, not in Bowley, damn, he was at the Cowboys support, I just mentioned his name. Just skip my head real quick.
Theophilo Benga.
Theophile Benga. God damn, well, you know I'm getting old, boy. Let me drink some water or something. So, you know, when you see them making that challenge, your first mind should not be to think that they pseudo. Your first mind should be, okay, where was black people when Greenberg and them was proposing this? It was in the, what was in the 40s, I believe. 40s and 50s, right? What was we doing to these time periods? Was it fair access for continental Africans to actually wade in with their languages? Hell no, it wasn't that at all. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't that. If y'all think that's what it is, y'all are seriously delusional. You do not understand racism, white supremacy. You do not understand the plight of continental Africans. You do not understand the plight of African Americans. Y'all bugging. Okay? You might have a few people that slip through the cracks, you know what I'm saying, to do some things, but for the most part, it was thoroughly controlled by Europeans. Okay, from France to Britain, the whole 9 yards. You wasn't getting an African, like you wasn't getting that. You wasn't wading in with your indigenous language saying, hey, wait a minute. You wasn't doing none of that. You was trying to fight for your damn freedom. If you was in Africa, you was colonized to death. If you was in America, you was coming about of slavery, looking crazy, doing Jim Crow, Martin Luther King head getting blown off. You know what I'm saying? They murdering people for looking at a white woman. You're getting murdered. You know what I'm saying? You're getting hung. I don't know what it's like. They can't look a white man in his eyes. We can't even look white people in their eyes in the 40s, in the 50s, in the 30s, in the 60s. How in the hell are we gonna get some damn good scholarship? You can't go to the damn library because you got the white library and the black library, the white library and the black library. The damn black library got one damn book. You got to steal a book from the white library to get something going. Can you go to college? You probably could, but could you afford college? Hell no. You couldn't get out the 5th grade because you had to work for your mother and them on the damn farm somewhere, whatever the hell you was doing. Everybody need to work. Couldn't afford college. Hell, white people was barely going to college. You know what I'm saying? Like, you talking about a barrier. They made it damn near impossible to even begin to do what we're doing right now. It was impossible. So us right now, us listening to the show and all that, Joshua, Cain, Team Osiris, look, bro, we come from a goddamn long way to be able to get to the point where you can have a fucking group of people who can start to look up and start to filter the information. Come from a long way of Dr. Ben and all them. Y'all act like Dr. Ben and them was happily invited in the damn museum. John Jackson. Now, what you think, John Jackson? He was born in 1917. Really, at 15, could you parlay your ass in the museum? No, you better get your ass over there, boy. Yeah, they said that. You was a boy then. Remember that? See, no, y'all don't remember that. You was a boy. Little girl. How would y'all feel? You look up at the sign, and the damn sign say, white water fountain, black water fountain. What the hell is that? We don't even understand that. To walk in a building and see colored and white. What the hell is colored? That's interesting how right now we're in a position. We don't know what none of that feel like, none of us. We can only look at the pictures and say that's crazy for the police department and the fire department, who are institutions that's supposed to help us and save our damn lives, actually pointing water holes with pounds of pressure that would hit you and bust your damn skin open. That's bananas. Think about that for a minute. And we beefing and fighting and slowing the momentum down because you don't feel like we got degrees? I'll be damned. So we become our own worst enemies at times. And absolutely Asar and them are supposed to get challenged. So I respect them for the challenge. But the other shenanigans, you got to cut that shit out. Like, the last 3 years could have took your ass to school for real and got rid, because I see the brother was studying. He ain't get up there and didn't. He was a little bumble. I ain't gonna lie. But he knew more about the linguistic shit than I feel like I might have known about that. But for me, I wouldn't have stepped to Asar not knowing enough about it. I'd have took my ass and, you know what I mean, took a 2-year class and then start talking shit to Asar. I'd have waited till then. So we gotta get out of our own way sometime. We want a challenge. We don't want Asar, Wujab, Reggie, Unc, Sean, none of the families. We don't want them to go unchallenged. That's the bullshit. That's the environment that a cult tries to create. That's the environment, watch this, y'all. That is the environment that the next stage of elders, the climate they created. So after Dr. Ben died, right, and John Henry Clark and all of them was gone, there was another set of elders that created a climate where you were unable to challenge them. We don't want that climate no more. So we flourish off of the challenges. But you come goddamn correct when you do. Let me get somebody else talk. Where you at, sis? I know you want to wait in on this. You know what I'm saying? Wuja, I know that's your favorite guy. And you was in the conversation for that last piece, that bonus round right there. What say you, because you was actually the living resource? What say you, sis?
Hotep and peace to the chat and the panel. Yeah, so I think Sean pretty much said some of the things that I wanted to say about that whole show. I think I was disappointed because we were hoping to get some type of demonstration, because when you mention a particular name that agrees with your claims, you don't want it to be half-baked. So you want to qualify why why your claim is so, and why a certain somebody X and Y agrees with you. So that was missing. So it was just about so and so agrees and so it says, and so it became a little bit of a church. So that was, and that's the meat of the whole thing. So that lacked. So pretty much that killed everything. But because I was mentioned in there, I think they did me wrong. Because I think and it pretty much just shows their methodology, because they came to my Facebook page, looked around, and then just turned back and went and reported on what they think I was all about, which doesn't make sense, because you want to interview somebody, you want to ask questions, so they didn't do that, obviously. And they got a lot of things wrong, because first off, they started off by like, I thought she was some kind of scholar. Yeah, like if you didn't just skim through my page, you would know that I am actually the right kind of scholar, because I got a degree, so that was stupid. And then on top of that, if they read the book, they would have known that I was actually being interviewed as a native speaker. It said clearly on the book, in the book. And they would have actually known that I was actually being interviewed about my language, which is Doluo, and is not what they call Nairobi language. I mean, there's nothing like that exists in this planet. So I don't know where they get that from. So I think they kind of, that was I was like, they couldn't even research me right. So that's why I believe, like they just skimmed through things. So they definitely did skim through, the books clearly. And also me, and I think they wasted a good opportunity, because if they came around my page, they could have just contacted me and then find out more information about what was going on, if they were not really ready to read the book.
So I don't know what the definition of a scholar is these damn days. What I do know is I need you to be right, or you right or you wrong. I'm not never the person to push that you need to have a damn degree in anything, but I mean, if you got the time and the vigor, then you probably should do it. It's a good thing. But if you show, hell, you want to talk about degrees? I mean, I ain't even gonna say that. I'm just gonna wait off that for a minute. But what I will say,
point? Oh,
yeah, go ahead, Wuja, go ahead.
Okay. I want to touch on what the expectation. The healthy.
Let everybody speak.
Oh, my fault, Kofi.
Long way ago. Now let everybody. Juba Ibi Gungun, but Juba Ibi Lagba. Want to get on and praise themselves. I always want to get on.
All right, I think brother Kofi is gonna have to.
Man, Kofi.
Just out his audio.
On the show, I didn't look. I'm cutting up.
Yeah, you was mixing, yo. You doing the funky robot. You
Go
good?
ahead. Go. Am I clear now?
You good?
Oh, no. I just want to say, man. I looked at about an hour of the show, man, and even though the brother, I'm just gonna say this. I got respect for the brother Josh. I don't know him. I never looked at the video he did where he critiqued Asar's book, but I knew about it. But even though the brother lost, he won. And what I mean by even though the brother lost, but he won is, I mean, he learned something.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Even though he lost, he learned something. So it was a win, you know what I'm saying, for him because he learned something. I wouldn't have. I like I said, I only watched the hour of it. I didn't even see why Asar even continued the discussion with him once the brother couldn't demonstrate comparative linguistics to show or demonstrate that Asar his comparative methods is wrong and he's wrong. I mean, I would have stopped talking to him right then and there. I would have told him to go back, you know what I'm saying, and learn before you come pulling to order. So I would have shut it down right then. But but like I said, man, it was a good bill, and like I said, I respect the guy, man, because I mean, most people wouldn't have stepped up to Asar. He stepped up to Asar, and like I say, even though the brother lost, he still won because he learned something.
How you know he learned something, Coach?
He learned
The brother
something.
learned. The brother learned something.
Yeah, he
He
definitely-
learned not to do that no more.
Sean,
Yeah.
That's what he learned.
Sean, crazy, yo. In the chat, real quick before you go,
man, I'm being honest.
somebody said, my grandmother graduated college in the early 30s and became a school teacher throughout the Midwest. I bet you she was only teaching black people too. Ha! That show you how bananas that is. She wasn't teaching no white people though. I bet you that. Yeah, they won't even let you go to no white schools. Yeah, so okay, I didn't say no black people didn't get degrees. You know what I'm saying? I never said that. I said we, us, everybody watching the stream, don't know what it feel like to can't be able to look up or look a white man in the damn face. You don't know what it's like to have to cross over to the other side of the street when a white man and a white woman is walking down the damn street. That's what I said. It's damn near impossible task. I know I wouldn't have made it to school. I've been too busy fighting. And you know we all say we all would have been fighting. Some of y'all would have followed the damn rules. So let's cut out the shenanigans with all that. My grandma with the college. Yeah, right. Her and who else? Come on, man. Go ahead, Wujai.
Okay. I noticed that it's like frozen on my screen, but I guess since I'm talking now, it's okay. But when everybody else was talking, I think it was frozen on me for some reason. But what I wanted to address, and I'll be quick.
Oh yeah, why is it? Okay, go ahead.
I'll be quick, Mr. Kofi. But
that's not the truth though, Wujai.
I'm gonna be fast. So this is the thing. Here's a healthy expectation when someone critiques work of this caliber, especially linguistics and other different fields of study. This is what you should expect, rightfully so. So, for example, if a math teacher gives you a math problem to work out, are you allowed to just give them an answer, or will the teacher want you to not only give the answer, but also show your work on how you achieve that answer, right or wrong?
Right.
That's correct, right? I'm sure everybody familiar with that who went through K through 12. We all had to do that in school.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you get a correct answer, final answer, if the teacher sees within your working out of the problem that you made errors, they're gonna know either you cheated to get the right answer or something is wrong, something is funny going on. All right. And so in order for somebody to critique your conclusions, they have to have the ability to, one, see your work and then demonstrate where you went wrong. You understand that? So I'm gonna show on my screen just as an example of some math problems where if you evaluate these problems, I want you to see how all these problems show it's the work to be that's done in these particular problems. See, now it's small. I don't think people could see my screen now.
Let me see.
It might change. At first it was big. But
we can see it.
we can see
it.
Well, yeah, in here I'm talking about on the YouTube side.
All right, let's see.
It was big where it showed whoever was speaking at first. I'm not going to read these math problems. I just want to show it so everybody can see it, and most people should be familiar with this.
Cut your camera off, Unc.
Huh? Oh, okay. All right. Is that why it's doing it?
Yeah, it drive will drive with Pest Control Plus. That usually makes it big.
Your camera was on.
my whole screen was big at first. Now it's showing me and Unc on the YouTube side by side, so it makes my screen look small. Oh, there we go, Unc. Whatever you did, that fixed it. Okay, so I'm not trying to make this a math class or anything, but a lot of us are familiar with this. In math, you have an order of operation, that most people are familiar with. PEMDAS, most people are familiar with that acronym or whatever to memorize the order of operations. But my point is that when you show your work and when somebody wants to critique your work and you show how you came to your conclusions, that is a better situation for somebody to examine exactly where you went wrong. And if you went wrong, I'm able to show you exactly where you went wrong. And I can correct you and show you a better way, et cetera, et cetera. So this is what's meant when Asar opened up the discussion with the brother Joshua Cain. He does not have the ability to do the work. He does not have the ability to do the sound meaning correspondences, to set up these consistent sound meaning correspondences, to even show how Asar's work, when he did it, is indeed wrong. And that's a big problem. And that was the one of the major first points that Asar brought up. So for example, when Asar shows things like this in his books, where he shows these language comparisons side by side, Proto-Bantu, Sumerian, Chicam, and then he shows the correspondences of those radicals or consonantal values. So what Joshua Cain should have done, but he does not have the ability to do, what he should have done was to show exactly where Asar went wrong when Asar is showing these sound, these correspondences here. And wherever Asar showed these correspondences, he should therefore be able to show where Asar went wrong. But the brother Joshua Cain cannot do that, did not do that. And that was a big, that's a big problem when you're critiquing work such as this, when it comes to linguistics. And like I said, other different fields of study as well. So that was a big problem. And so, of course, when people can't do the work, they have to rely on an appeal to authority. So anybody out there that agrees or appears may not agree with Asar, or who didn't even check out Asar's work themselves, then it becomes real fishy, foggy and blurry, because now it's like, well, I have to appeal to consensus or appeal to authority. And then that opens the channel for, well, brother Asar, where have you got your stuff reviewed by a professional linguist? The reason why people say that is because they need someone else to review Asar's work and not themselves, because they can't do it. And so that's one of the biggest problems that I saw and that I see all the time, but I definitely saw it tonight, where a person has the inability to actually do this kind of work, to be able to show where mistakes occurred and where they were right, somebody was right and somebody was wrong. And that was the thing that Asar pointed out. So I just wanted to point that out to everybody watching right now.
Can we address the elephant in the room? At this point, people are sitting around saying, well, God damn it, maybe I can't read metanetia, or maybe I can't do linguistics, but based off of the scholarly work that I'm reading, that shit don't seem to be right. Is that a possibility? Can people wade in from that end though? Because that's the elephant in the damn room. I know right now, because I think like most regular people think, we saying, God damn it, I might not be a linguist, but I'm reading, I'm going to encyclopedias, I'm going to the different sources you're told to go to, and this source is saying, well, no, this is what this is. And this source is saying, nah, that ain't what that is. So what are people to do though, bro? Does everybody got to write a book to address you? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the type of shit I would be saying. Because when people got too slick with me about evolution, I just wrote a little small book to show them that I can at least do that. You feel me? But is that the criteria for critiquing, say, the Shashu Money Meta Natural and Amaral Squad or the Masi? You know what I'm saying? Or MBK? Is that what they got to be able to do, bro? Because then that's kind of hard.
So let me ask you a question, Unc.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna paint a scenario. So suppose you're investigating a topic, right?
Mm.
And you go to Scholar A, and Scholar A says XYZ. Then you go and you know, as a good researcher, you're not going to limit yourself to one scholar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hopefully no one does that. But let's say you get a second opinion. So you go to one scholar who's a bona fide scholar in the field. He says XYZ. You go get another scholar in the same field and he says ABC. So my question to you is, when you're in that situation where you're not competent in the field, where you had to rely on scholars, and you consulted two scholars, and these two scholars are saying something totally contrary to each other, what do you do at that point?
You got to go to the consensus. You can only rely on the consensus at that point. So that's the best you can do.
Or you actually learn yourself to do the work.
That might take 4 years though. Yo, who the hell got 4 years to get an answer to it? I'm playing the devil's advocate.
No, I hear you. But I'm saying this is what scholarship is about. Real scholars will actually do that. In order for me to disagree with Greenberg, for example, I am going to have to study historical comparative linguistics. Period. There's no way around it. See, this is the thing that people are going to have to get in their heads. Scholarship is not a microwavable endeavor. You're not gonna get around acquiring the tools and resources and skill set to actually do the work yourself when it comes down to it. When you're in that situation, there is no way around it. And we got to stop making excuses for ourselves and for other people who don't do it but have so much to say. Period.
Yeah, I agree, because for most of us in the Sishu, that's how we actually got to study the language. Most of us came from a place of being intrigued or trying to find out a few things here and there. So if you're really interested enough to a point where you want to critique or you want to be involved in what is going on within that particular field, and be interactive and have some input, then you definitely have to put in that work. I mean, there's no excuse. I did it. The rest of the issue did it in our particular study field. So, and that comes from that interest. It wasn't just because we want to do it and we want to argue from a point of ignorance, and we're still doing it. So that's why I think anybody who wants to be part of any particular kind of conversation on a serious level and not complain about not being taken seriously have to really study. And that's what scholarship is about. You are a scholar when you actually start to take interest on a particular field. You don't have to get a degree, but you have to be specialized in that field and actually be qualified enough, show enough qualifications to be able to interact and have input and add to that body of work. So there's no excuse about who has time to study that. If you don't have time, then don't be involved in those conversations. Just be a spectator.
And let me ask you this: how long ago? Hold on, I'm hearing a big echo. I'm hearing a big echo, I think. So, Unc, I got a question. Last question. How long ago did the issue about the validity of Afroasiatic come up? How long ago was that?
5-6 years ago, when I was fighting Asar, get out of here. He was like, come on, man, this should help support your position.
Okay, so you said 5 or 6 years ago. So correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Is 5 or 6 years long enough for somebody to become competent in historical comparative linguistics, even get a degree?
No, I think you're right. Just like when we had to deal, when I challenged everybody on the squad that the meta-lesson hadn't been deciphered, I remember that moment in history like it was yesterday. And as I got the brakes beat off me like Joshua did, I say, I got damn, man, I gotta learn. I gotta actually learn that. And so, you know, over the years, I mean, y'all kind of taught me. I mean, you sit down, you was very, very patient with me. And I learned how and why, you know, the Nebuchadnezzar was deciphered. And the shit wasn't no easy learn. You had to really, it just was I can't explain it. Like, it was going against kind of like your logic sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like with certain things he was talking about, like how although we might not hear, you know, indigenous Egyptians speak it, you know what I'm saying? But that still don't mean you can't decipher it. You feel me? And it's just, so you had to sit with somebody that understood the subject, and you had to be taught for me to even begin to challenge on that. So I do get that. So y'all do got to be competent in the subject that you're trying to challenge a person in. And yes, I put the link in the chat room. So if anybody want to come on some questions, you know, you know, give your perspective on what went down. I think first of all, I'd like to say for me, it was very fair and it was very classy. And, you know, I'm looking for more class in 2020. And, you know, I'm glad Asar is back on this grind again, bringing the true scholars back, you know, in the neighborhood. And hopefully, you know, after he get them there, come on over, you know, to the Raw Squad channel or the Black Atheist channel, just so everybody can experience what real scholarship is. And this is where I got it from, a watch and Asar grinded out about 10 years ago on Blog Talk. He had this real weird ass show where all these doctors and academics was talking. I looked, what the hell is they talking about? You know, it wasn't the cuss you out type shit like men said he was doing. It was another flavor. And you know, I'm glad to see you back on the ground again. So yeah, I'm gonna put I put that back in the chat room, let these people in now. I'm telling y'all right now, I'm on my grown man 52 man shit right now. I'm chilling. I'm 52. I'm not yelling at you. I'm not hollering. I'm not doing all that. But if you get too slick, I will cuss your ass out. All right, I'm gonna let you know that. But 99% of the time, you know, I'm not arguing with you. We're not doing none of that. You know what I'm saying? We got respected scholars on the platform. We got a lovely sister on here. And, you know, I want people to hear the conversation. So I'm not willing to actually argue you down and howl and scream, cut you off. I will black ice you in a heartbeat. We're going back to the black ice days. That's to keep me from cussing you out. So I'm gonna open up the lines. Let's be respectful. If you're in support of Team Sloppy, then you call Team. I'm joking. I had to get a good one in though, right? Don't come in here with that foolery, man. You know, don't do it, man. Let's come in like the champions we are, like the beautiful black people we are, and let's make 2020 very productive. And I think the first conversation in 2020 was a real spectacular one. It wasn't all the extraordinary nonsense that Sarnetta be trying to do. Yeah, I'm banging on you, Sarnetta. Where I know you somewhere sneaking and around. I'm banging on you. Yeah. Now
you got two people waiting on, and you got Hush Your Mouth, San Antoine on the panel too. He ain't spoke.
All right, let me go ahead, hush your mouth, hush your mouth. Hush your mouth. I'm gonna let everybody in. Everybody be respectful.
ETM Hotep.
ETM Hotep.
Rennie Hush Your Mouth. Shout out to Mr. Cain. Do I owe to my Cindy Asar M Hotep? But you brought it up initially. You said, what's the elephant in the room? I'm gonna tell you what the elephant is. The whole approach is the interest in the Kemet. So they want to discuss as far as DNA, them coming from the Middle East as opposed to it coming from the South. That's what it all boils down to.
Who comes from Middle East? What you mean?
As far as the language, the culture, that's their approach. It's always been their approach.
Oh, did they come from the Middle East?
Yeah, the Levant area.
Oh yeah.
So that's when they use the references that they use.
Yeah.
That's where it all goes back. That's the elephant in the room.
They do. Yeah, well, you can read the UNESCO report. You know what I'm saying? That was a good one to tell you what the conclusion they reached. You can go to UNESCO website And man, I don't know why I can't remember that. It's decipherment. No, what is it, Asar? How you say that?
I'm talking about with Team of Pep. Let's go back to like Christopher
No.
and the whole approach as far as with Mr. Cain.
Yeah. Oh, you mean I don't think they support that the culture come from the Middle East though.
In a way they do.
The Levant.
If
Oh,
you
go ahead,
pay
explain that.
attention,
You got that's what it's all about.
Wow.
If you pay attention to the line of questioning, when his commentary, brother Joshua Cain, when he brought up Sharmaka Kita, he tried to argue that Sharmaka Kita don't believe in that Black Egyptians came from the South and the language and all this other kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, you obviously haven't read. Well, we know he doesn't read entire text, period, or understands what is being read, but it's clear that he hasn't read Sharmaka Keita. And see what the problem is. I'm not saying I'm anything special. I'm an ordinary person, just like everyone on this line and everyone listening. But I have. I'm not one of these random internet dudes. Like when I went to school, I double minored in African studies and in African American studies. And I ended up taking 2 minors because I was in accounting at first. And when I transferred to the University of Houston, they told me I needed to take in African studies. I had the option to I had to take like a world studies. And so you had Asian studies, you had Latin studies, you had African studies. And so my dumb behind took all African American studies courses for my minor. Didn't realize none of them counted towards my degree until I did my audit, And so I had to go back and take African studies. So at U of H, they had them separated. So you had African American studies and you had African studies. A drain on my pocketbook, but in that regard, I didn't care because these are subjects and stuff that I love. So, within that, I'm taught by some of the best teachers in Africana studies, and as a result, by attending conferences and stuff to this nature, I'm being introduced to some of the top scholars. So I got to meet like back in the early days, the Naeem Akbars, the Dr. Wade Nobles, the Molefe Kitty Asantes, Amma Mazama, Dr. Troy Allen, Dr. Mario Beatty. I didn't get to meet Obinga, but I conversed with him several times. So my first time meeting Dr. Mario Beatty, I was doing a presentation on Kemet at a conference at the University of Houston. So I was still in undergrad doing presentations at a conference with nothing but PhDs, right, on my analysis on Kemet. This is way back in 2001, 2002. So at this time, I meet Dr. Mario Beatty, and he gives me Obinga's number. And so Obinga's the one who really got me strong into the linguistics. He told me that I needed to use it in order to answer the kinds of questions that I was, into and asking. And so from there, of course, graduate, continue to attend conferences, not only attend just as an attendee, but to put on presentations in various Africana studies conferences, language conferences, and the like. And so, when I come to the conscious community, I'm not coming as someone who doesn't have an academic background, And so in those, I've studied under people. I've taken formal classes outside of my regular curriculum. And so, like Joshua thinking that, because I don't have a degree in linguistics, like that somehow hurts me. It hasn't prevented me from presenting at linguistic conferences or being published in other people's works on linguistic matters, and having linguists and Egyptologists vouch for my scholarship and cite it. Right now, my work is being included and studied heavy, for example, with this brother in Brazil who's working on his PhD and dealing with Ptah Hotep. You know, like there's a woman working on the text on Ma'at. She's using the text. You know, and I get my alerts all the time on academia .edu on who's citing the text, you know, that I've written and things of this nature. And so it just behooves me that these individuals who, you know, because they got a unlimited cell phone plan and can get on YouTube at any moment and have 6-hour conversations about nothing, can somehow think that they're going to compare to someone who is in conversing and writing and challenging things in the field. And so they think that because I'm on YouTube that you know, I'm one of them who just got off the subway random and just decided that I'm gonna call myself a linguist and deal with African studies and stuff to this nature, not knowing I'm formally trained. And so when I ask them these questions about method, you know, that's what if you're dealing with scholarship, that's the first thing that any scholar is going to attack you on is your method. And so the question is, you know, like he don't know what the word, or I don't know what he knows and not know, but it's clear that he doesn't understand the relationship of epistemology to scholarship. How do you know what you know to be true? And so that goes back to what Wujawu was saying in terms of being able to demonstrate, being able to do. That's how you know what you know. That's how we know that you know what you're doing, your ability to demonstrate your skills. And so he's unable to do that. And so you have certain people who got PhDs thinking because they got the PhD that, you know, challenging me is going to be something easy. And then they find out quick that, oh, I can't, you know, like when I asked, like, with Obadeli, you know, me and him having a conversation, and he has a degree in linguistics, and he's trying to challenge me and Mboli on the method used on in terms of the reconstruction. And he not knowing that I've studied hundreds of historical linguistic texts. And I asked him a simple question. I'm like, can you give me a source? You know, it's always when we ask for a source, that's when we get in trouble on the Amaral Squad. I'm like, can you give me a source that demonstrates and reconstructed a language in the way that you argue is the standard? Can you provide that source for me so we can review it and then compare it to Mboli's? All of a sudden, he had to get off the phone because he was busy and stuff to this nature. And this stuff happens all the time. All you have to do is ask them, you know, for the demonstration. If this is the standard, show me. You know, because what you'll find out when you start getting into serious study is that a lot of information that is being passed around in these textbooks have never been demonstrated. They've only been carried out in the modern day because the person who suggested it is a person of prestige. But you look through all of their work, you won't find it in terms of the demonstration, where they got, how they came to their conclusion and things. So I won't be long with it any more than I am.
All right, I'm Hotep Raw, man. Okay, bro, I apologize to your grandmother if you say she taught white people. Okay, I apologize to grandma. Sorry about that, grandma. Sorry about that. Okay, so, all right. Yeah, you do got to have a certain level of accuracy, a certain level of critiquing you, and that you would have to have that level. And so this is the level we seek to have. So anybody else want to add to the discussion? Anybody talk about the events that transpired? An hour ago. What about you, 347? What's good?
Yo,
What up?
what up, man? This is Rob Bourne. I'm the guy that's not a scholar, so I'm just here. I'm just here. Listen, I'm the only person that on this panel that will tell you that he is not a scholar. I wanted to add on about what I heard Bujao say. He asked a really important question, and he asked that the other day, and I want to add on to something about Asar. So Bujao gave the example of if you are studying a subject, and as you study this subject, you find one scholar that says one thing and one scholar that says the other thing. What do you do from that point if you want to find out about a specific subject? The answer given is you have to go do the work, or you would have to demonstrate on whatever subject that is, and then come to your own conclusion. So what I'm getting from this is me looking on the outside. Remember, I'm not a scholar. This is me looking at somebody who just likes to read and pass off what I learned. If I see it's feasible to whatever audience I'm trying to convey my message to. So if I'm studying a subject, let's say Egypt, and I just want to know about Egyptian religion, and I'm looking at this, and I say, okay, so where do you start? You start, seeing what's the primary documents that people are looking at, who's the authorities of these things, and then I'll read them and look at them, compare the 2, 3, 4, then I'll make my own understanding. But now, like, let's say a person like Asar comes along, and he's like, yo, what you thought is wrong. You thought that the Sumerians were some other people. DNA says they're Arabs. You're wrong. The linguistics. Language.
Alan, you
so. Hello.
Yeah, you went silent for a moment. You think you had to repeat just the last couple of things you said.
Oh, I said, what if we run into an individual like Asar, and then he comes up with a new thing that we never kind of really heard before, but we heard of the concept as far as trying to compare languages to African languages, which the other people weren't doing. So now I'm reading this text, and now I'm finding that Bantu is the foundation of the Sumerian language, which means these people are African. So now, is it wrong for me to say, okay, this is groundbreaking information? This is not nothing little. This is something that this brother sat there, he did. Is it wrong for me to say, yo, like, did you give this to these people so you can shut the white man down, like Benga and them tried to do, or put that work for? Is that wrong for doing that, or should I just listen to the brother Asar who gave a good example and forget all of the other scholars who ever wrote anything about it? What are you supposed to do?
Okay, let me answer that. So here's the difference, and I'm gonna give you the short answer, then I qualify my answer. The answer is no. So if you come across what you consider breaking information, your natural next step is going to want to compare it. You're going to want to compare that groundbreaking information that's groundbreaking to you. You're going to compare it to other people and see what are they saying about it. That's natural. But here's the problem. You can't, because it's groundbreaking and because the other people may not have looked at it yet, you can't therefore say that what Asar is saying is wrong and then try to debate and argue and say he's wrong because of that. That's where the logical fallacies come into play. That's where you open yourself up for all the logical fallacies. So at best, you can say, okay, wow, this is different than what I thought. Like I'm used to this, but Asar is saying something different. It's gonna be natural for you to be like, wow, I wonder what other scholars think about it. See, that's okay. No one has a problem with that. That's a normal reaction that everybody has. But like I said, the problem comes in is when somebody makes a breakthrough or put some work, and if they show their work, like Mboli did in his 2010 work, where the entire book is showing you, he's showing his work throughout the entire book, and for people to just dismiss it by default because other people did not address it or whatnot, that's where the fallacies come into play. That's where the difference. So until that happens, they don't have a leg to stand on, and you're just stuck in that situation and be like, wow, this sounds groundbreaking. I don't know yet. And then ultimately another option for you is for you to learn as well, and then you can fact check or check behind a person like Asar or Mboli, and then whatever other scholar that you
but that other part of the equation though, that which is good you brought that up. If I use that to challenge you and say, yo, bro, this is the whole consensus. The whole consensus says this. What are you talking about? I did the work. I did that. I'm not gonna. That's not the point that I'm bringing though. I'm bringing the point as a person who's just an avid reader in the subject, or how you would call them, an autodidact. And you're just reading on this stuff, and you're like, okay, so if the other brother, let's say Asar comes with it, what do I do? Do I just say, yo, he got the work, and the rest of them is wrong?
No, that's my point. You can't. You're not in a position if you don't know how to do the work yourself.
And because the method.
Hold on one second. Let me just say this. If you don't know how to do the work, what we all have to do is just be honest and realize that we're not really in a position to judge, to discern at that point. And so
that's the point. So are we saying forget all of those other people, whatever subject it is, Sumerianologists, Egypt, all of them, forget all of them. They didn't demonstrate the work. They just saying stuff.
If I can interject,
go ahead, brother.
It's a bit more complex than that, because it's never that everyone is wrong. It's just that there's certain questions that they may be wrong in. So, for example, with Sumerian, these scholars have tried to compare Sumerian to every other language except African languages, because they automatically assumed that these people were unrelated to Black African people. So they never looked in that direction. So when you're looking at the scholarship, this is why I asked the question, show me the demonstration, because just like I have to demonstrate that something is correct, the same way that they would have to demonstrate that something is incorrect. So the only way that you can say that Sumerian is not related to Bantu languages means that the only way that you can say that is true means that you would have had to have compared Sumerian to Bantu languages. You can't just offhand dismiss it and come to that conclusion, because you haven't done the work. So that's why I asked. You say that this is not the case. Well, show me your work. Show me when you compared Sumerian to Bantu, that you didn't find reoccurring, non-accidental sound meaning correspondences in basic vocabulary and grammar with the language. Show me that.
Right.
If you can't do it, then you just made it up. And that's what a lot of people do. And people are trying to use their if they are, professors in a field, they try to use their position to dismiss and devalue other works that would challenge. Because you got to remember that scholars make their careers off of certain schools of thought and ideologies. If you're coming with information that debunks that, what you're essentially saying is that they did all this work for nothing. And scholars are not willing to do that. And so usually every other year or so, as an example, I share this open letter that Dr. Muba Benge Bololo sent to a group of Egyptologists who were holding an international Egyptology conference seeking new research in the field of Egyptology. An international conference So Mubai Binge Bilolo, who's a trained linguist, trained philosopher in religious studies and political science, all these different things, reads Greek, reads Hebrew, knows, I think, at least 6 or 7 African languages, knows Meta-Netia, knows Coptic, all of that, very well trained, speaks German, speaks, he writes in German too, so he has articles and things in books in German and in French. He even writes in his native Chiluba. So this individual showing, he's trying to, he submitted an abstract showing the relationship between ancient Egyptian and his native Chiluba. And they didn't accept his abstract. And when the conference came around and you got to see the
So what was that about though? What was that about that they didn't accept? What was it about?
Because it's I've had to deal with this, and this is what I'm trying to get you.
I want you to explain that, but I want you to tell me what was the subject that they shunned it. What was he trying to prove? What did he show them?
Okay, I'm trying to tell you that.
Okay.
So, what I'm trying to get you to understand is that when he got to the when he saw the itinerary for the what was being accepted, he noticed that it was all, for the most part, white men who was presenting, and they were only from basically 2 or 3 places. From France, it was a few from the United States, and it was I think 1 or 2 from Germany. Mainly males, only like 1 or 2 females. This is supposed to be an international conference. There was no Egyptians, no Africans, barely any women, and they were all about subjects that are already being talked about. But they're requesting new information. So just the very fact that he is comparing ancient Egyptian to Bantu, as far as mainstream Egyptology is concerned, is innovative. And he's trying to show, like, another thing that people got to remember is that Mubai Binge Bilolo is actually royalty. He's a prince in his native village. And so there's certain rites and rituals that he's privy to as a royal son of the soil there. And he mentions this. He's like, who in Egyptology has the training and speaks all of these African languages like a Mubai Binge Bilolo and an Obenga? Like, if you actually look at the training of Obenga and Bilolo, it's second to none. There's no Egyptologist that is more trained than these. And these are they went to the best schools in Europe and in Africa. It's just that what you got to understand is that it's certain prejudices that prevent certain voices from being heard. So it's not all the time that somebody has some fringe information and they're not being heard, or the consensus, they don't acknowledge this as if everything is fair. That's not how this rolls. And so like me and Dr. Shamaka Kita was talking about this just last Saturday, and I was talking about this this journal article that I'm submitting to the linguistic journal, and he was giving me some tips on how to word the title because of how the politics involved in getting your research printed. So he's like, you got to formulate it in a way that you don't, what did he say? He said you got to formulate the title in a way that you don't declare that you're right and everyone's wrong. You have to put it in the form of a question, like you're doing exploratory work, even though when you get into the paper, you can now give them the business. But he was giving me this game and telling me about some things. So there's a lot of stuff that people don't know because they're not scholars, they're not involved, they don't interact with these people, the people who are the gatekeepers who control the journals, who control the funding for certain things, and where the acknowledgement and stuff comes from. So we're still, even in 2020, still trying to break down doors to get basic, things heard in these national journals and things. Very well qualified scholars all throughout Africa, having these complications. So it's a bit more involved, and that's why I can't take serious someone like a Joshua Cain or anyone from Team Osiris. They don't know any of this stuff. They're not involved.
Yeah, I got you, bro. I don't want to beat people up. I'm just saying.
Let me ask something real quick.
For you, my brother, have they ever blocked your work on the Sumerian Bantu connection?
They've blocked. I haven't dealt with the Sumerian stuff because I wanted to publish that first and then go with the Sumerian. But just Bantu and Egyptian, like there is, matter of fact, not even on a conference level. There's a Facebook group. There's this linguist by the name of Larry something who started this historical comparative linguist group. He, certain people invite you into these groups and things of this nature. I look into the group, I accept it. I look and see what people are posting and things of this nature. So I'm like, I'm gonna test the waters out. So I post something about Yoruba and ancient Egyptian. I do some Yoruba and Egyptian comparisons, and I mentioned in the commentary that I normally compare Bantu and Egyptian, and this is my first post. Want your feedback, yada 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 yada. And so it's nothing but linguists in the group. So I get in the morning. All the posts have to be approved by him. So he's the main moderator, and so you just can't post freely. They have to be approved by him. So I get an inbox message, suggesting that I, try these other groups, and that people will be dismissive of comparing Bantu with ancient Egyptian. And there's this pseudo-linguistic group that you could, join and then learn. And then he tried to suggest some books and stuff for me to start learning historical comparative linguistics. So I looked at this and was like, I put together my intellectual beat down on him. I can tell that he didn't even read it because he was talking about Bantu and Egyptian when my post was about Yoruba. And so this let me know that he didn't even read it, but he had all this to say. And so when I was giving him my science background, and I'm like, this is why so much false information is being presented or being put in textbooks, because we have people with no science background trying to teach on the collegiate level about this and this and this and missing all of this. I'm like, if you were a serious scholar, you would have asked these questions and da 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 da. And so, and I'm like, he tried to like throw Takax out there. I'm like, Gabriel Takax. I'm like, show me a text of his where he uses the comparative method to come to any of his conclusions. Same thing with da da da. I'll await. And when he saw that I understood all of this other kind of stuff and he could not challenge me back, then he said, yeah, I was hasty in my assumptions. You can repost your thing, now in the group. But you have to fight, these perceptions. And so without even reading the content of the post, he already judged it and dismissed it, and then tried to suggest some basic information for which I'm very well familiar with, and which he wasn't familiar with. He deals with Indo-European and doesn't know anything about Egyptian languages and African languages and comparisons and stuff of this nature. So I was like, basically, how dare you? You know, I'm like, I need you to understand how science works. And, you know what I'm saying, before you try to moderate a group on comparative linguistics and all this other kind of stuff. And so, you know, it's stuff like this, just, you know, no matter where you go, it's always a fight. And what people got to understand is that when people bring new ideas and stuff into the realm of science, it's not always accepted immediately. It may be 40 years before someone catches on, because, you know, people are stuck in their ways. And in a lot of times they're stuck in ways and not based on any scholarship whatsoever, but hypotheses. And when you come in with these new ideas that is based on something, what you do is you pull the skirt over, you know, saying the heads of some of these revered scholars, and that's what's the issue. And so we've on this line have dealt with that firsthand with challenging an argument made by Sheikh Anta Diop. And so we do this even in our own circles. And you come to find out when you ask a simple question, where, show me the work. And then that's when everybody, you know, got excuses. They got to go somewhere. We'll pick up this conversation tomorrow.
Got you. So I got you. So whenever you do that, brother, I want to know, or I'll be checking out your academia, because that's groundbreaking information. So there's one more thing I got for you since you on here. So I heard y'all talking about DNA and language, and you said that it doesn't go hand in hand.
When Alan get the mic on people's shows, Alan be I'm a
I'm the non-scholar who listened to a debate that this brother sat down and combed through the video. That other brother sat there and did what he did. So now, you know, I got questions about the thing.
Listen, Alan, you good? I'm just joking.
Yeah, I know. But so speaking upon language and DNA, right? So when we dealing with that, so are we saying that language trumps DNA and the material culture, in particular dealing with the Sumerians? The reason why I say that is, if I look at the new DNA stuff that they found, they say that these people are Marsh Arabs and that they come from an Anatolian group in the area based off the Y chromosome. And the study that they did, they said these people are non-West Asian and non-African. Then when we look at their material culture on how they drew themselves and the stuff that they left in their earliest burials, etc., it says it tells a different story. So how does that work, brother? I'm confused about that. How does that work?
Okay, so, you know, chronology is a very good thing. So we would have to look at those studies and see what is the time period of those burials. Secondly, you know, this is something that I discuss quite heavily in the Alluja Volume 2 book.
You in this Alluja Volume 2 book, now you're making me want to buy the book, man. Come on, man.
It's been a long time coming, and it's, you know, this book is an answer to a lot of debates I was having and stuff that I was holding, because I thought people was really want to get this work in these debates, but everybody keeps running. So I'm like, forget it. I'm just going to put it in the book and, you know, deal with y'all later. There's certain things you got to understand. So first of all, you know, we're dealing with a minority African population, but an African population that had prestige and power, probably because of control of trade routes, certain cultural things, whatnot. And so when you go in smaller numbers into an area where you're dominated by a different type of group, over time you get absorbed in that population, while they may have adopted your language. So over time, your physical makeup of your descendants may change, like how a lot of us in the United States are becoming light-skinned, curly hair, because all this interracial mixing, you know, in the United States is not as prominent because we've been forced into ghettos where we were forced to breed and live amongst each other. But When you go to places like certain spaces in Canada, the African American the African population that is in Canada is becoming very light, almost looking Mexican in things of this nature, because they're in smaller numbers. And we're not talking about the recent migrants that are coming from the Caribbean or coming from London and things of this nature. We're talking about those, enslaved Africans who were brought into Canada. They were in lower numbers. And so as their descendants grow, they're getting more absorbed into that population. So their physical makeup is changing. And so you have different DNA markers, for this group and population over time, because these are all networks and people are intermingling and things of this nature. But the language is the key factor in demonstrating that these African people were there. And so you can have a small population and you may find a sample that doesn't exist. You may do a DNA sample with a small group that didn't have any kind of biological exchange, adopted the language. And so all of these things have to be looked at when you're trying to make an analysis on who's the Sumerians and things of this nature. Because one of the things that you're not going to be able to do is dismiss the linguistic evidence. Because
right, and that's the major reason for asking this question, because on that study they did something quite different. Than they did the Y chromosome and the mitochondrial chromosome.
Yeah, but that's a small part of your DNA.
Yeah, but they did both though. They did the Y.
But out of how many samples? And keep in mind, remember that the Sumerians are contemporary.
Let me tell you, brother. They did. You would ask the question. It was like 145 people or something like that.
Oh no, you're talking about in the modern time. I'm talking about you. If you're going to make an argument about who the original people are in that area, you need to grab DNA samples from dead bodies and bones and things from that time period, because you don't know about if there was any kind of population replacement or anything to that nature. And this is where Team Osiris always gets this issue wrong. They keep talking about what these modern Egyptians have in terms of their haplogroups, but you have no DNA studies of actual ancient Egyptians who are buried in these tombs that can give you the haplogroups of that population. And so you have to be careful with these kinds of studies. And this is why we stress you to answer your earlier question that you was asking, Wujawu. This is what I always recommend, and this has always been my thing. If I'm passionate about a subject that I don't know, I don't go grab books about the just kind of the summaries, the introductory books. I get them later. What I purchase are the research methods books for that field of study. That's the first thing that I purchase, because I need to know how to evaluate the information in these texts. Because, being a scholar, I know for a fact that it depends on what school you went to when you got your degree. Depending on what school you went to, you were indoctrinated in a particular school of thought. And if I just happen to read a book, that from a particular school of thought, I may not be introduced to the opposition and critiques of that particular school of thought. And so one of the things that as a scholar, there's schools of thought. So you can't get caught up in any of that stuff. What's important for you to know is the methods to determine, truth from falsehood in any particular field of study. So the first thing you get are research methods in that particular field. That's what I did with linguistics. That's what I did with genetics. That's what I did with oral tradition studies. And the list goes on. I have dozens upon dozens of research methods books in a variety of fields. So I know when somebody is BSing me or not when it comes to certain information.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Especially when studying Kemet, within the first 3 chapters, you know the author's perspective. You talking about the 2 different arguments. Within the first 3 chapters, you should know, okay, this author's perspective is African, German, French, or what have you. You're gonna realize that when you're first reading that author, that's what's gonna determine your approach and how you utilize the author's information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the lay person isn't going to know this, and this is just something that if you will discover over time if you are a researcher. But the lay person, they just don't know. There's schools of thought, and so for example, when we talk about this there's a Greenberg school of thought, but the vast majority of linguists dismiss Greenberg's methods. And this is why I discuss and I put a lot of these arguments in chapter 9 of Volusia Volume 2. Because, if you listen to Team Osiris, they make it seem like Greenberg, was the next best thing to sliced bread. And I cite a source where they compare Greenberg's methods to astrology, basically calling it pseudo. And I have source upon source upon source. So if you don't know nothing about research methods, you won't know how to what kind of questions to ask. That's why you ask them. Show me, for example, any a text that demonstrates that Afro-Asiatic is a valid language construct based upon the comparative method. You ask any researcher that. You're not going to get an answer because it doesn't exist. But then get all the research method books on historical comparative linguistics. All of them will tell you that language families, the genetic value of language family, or the genetic validity of language families is always determined by the historical comparative method. And if that is the case, well, show me the text that demonstrates that Afro-Asiatic went through the comparative method and it has been established. It doesn't exist.
Hey, can I just say something for 60 seconds real quick? I want to speak to the consensus issue. This is something people may not be aware of, is that there's pros and cons with the going the consensus route, and there's a danger with people appealing to the consensus, and this is pointed out in a lot of people's critique of scientific consensus and consensus within different fields. And what that is that there's a gap between the actual boot on the ground scholars that are actually putting in the work, as opposed to the layperson who's just a person who grabs a book and is just interested and maybe even an enthusiast. There's a gap between what they do in real time versus by the time that the layperson gets the information and then how they get it. And so a lot of textbooks and a lot of things written for lay people are just parroting things that some scholars have said, and so much so and so widespread that may be interpreted as the consensus. So when a lot of people, when they argue and they want to go with the consensus, they're really not going with the actual boot on the ground scholars consensus. They're going with the consensus based on popularity, and that's a very closely related issue, and people have to be aware of that. So I'm letting people know to be careful when you toss around that word consensus. If you're not interested enough to get your own feet wet to keep up with these dissertations, the scholars, because a lot of scholars write articles all the time, and they don't print it in a actual tangible book until years later. But you got to keep up with what scholars are doing, and so you have
a lot of stuff be on JSTAR, be on ResearchGate. They put all of that on there before they put it in their book.
Exactly. So
I mean, I guess most
but
people.
You also got to understand that most of that stuff is behind paywalls. Journals that you can only get access to if you are in graduate school,
right?
Or
EDU,
dealing with a university. And
exactly.
so a lot of folks don't have access to that to get what is the latest information and debates concerning whatever topic of the day is.
Exactly. So I just wanted to bring that up so that people listening will understand that there is some dangers to just hollering consensus. So we got to be real careful with that.
I have a couple points. Some conversations are really advanced, and we find that we have those conversations in the place that's people are learning. And so one of the problems is if you introduce something from, how can I say that you're an expert in a particular field like historical comparative linguistics, and you introduce some material to a group of people that are that don't have the capacity to do the research, then you're one eye in the city of blind. And I don't. I'm probably one of the few people who have gone against Asar and Ujawu and the Shemsu Hor research group on the issue of Kemet. Not everything else, but just on Kemet. From my work, from my research and my work and what I read, I find that the field is hypothetical. You get hypothetical conclusions, and then those hypothetical conclusions are pushed as if they are not hypothetical, even if they are probable. The guidelines say that they are still hypothetical. So if you're pushing work that is hypothetical by nature, then to push it and make it authoritative, to me, is just a little bit problematic, because there's nothing that I have found that say historical comparative linguistics is, yes, it's a useful tool for the reconstruction of languages, but its findings are hypothetical.
And this is where, again, being a scientist first comes to the rescue, because you hear that all the time, and they're talking about reconstruction. It is impossible for a reconstruction to be a hypothesis. People who make that argument obviously don't know what the stages are in the scientific method. You start off with a hypothesis. You're building your way up to a theory. Your hypothesis is Yoruba and the Akan languages are related. Your experimentation is what we call the historical comparative method. That's your scientific way of eliminating chance and falsifying hypotheses. What is left is your theory. That's what the reconstructions are. It is a logical consequence of the actual experimentation. It is based on data, real data, raw data. There's nothing hypothetical. You don't do an experiment and then your conclusion is a hypothesis. Your hypothesis comes first. Your experiment either falsifies or confirms the hypothesis. And so this is why we can't let people like Netanyahu, who don't know what he's talking about, try to make arguments about a field he's unfamiliar with. There's not hypothetical.
Come on,
so it goes
don't do it like that. It's all just to teach us about the methodology.
You have to say it's
don't
theoretical.
Say you don't know nothing, bro.
Yeah,
it's theoretical as opposed to hypothetical. It's theoretical.
Yeah, it's your theory. So like when Mboli or Obenga, talks about Negro Egyptian, it is not a hypothesis. It is a theory based on a series of facts. And so this is why when I was going through the mathematics of linguistics and things and trying to show this in getting folks to understand that it's mathematics and it's logic, it's a consequence. When you're talking about this, it's a consequence of the data, of the experimentation. And so we got to stop letting these folks speak on behalf of the scientists. and aren't doing the work.
Well, is historical comparative linguistics by definition and by goal, is it hypothetical?
Do you know what a hypothesis is?
No, I'm just reading the from the definition. So I could go and read verbatim from the definition, but without all the scientific method and all that, my issue is the definition of historical comparative linguistics, even though it can be probable, some things can be probable, is it in fact the conclusions or hypothetical, even if they're probable?
That doesn't even make sense. Conclusions and
Well, I come back,
hypotheticals.
Reggie, stay in trouble, boy. Hey, look at you, Reggie. You took your hoodie off.
Yeah, because it was getting hot. So
damn, I stepped out for 1 minute. I come back, Reggie in the hot seat.
No, because I want you to read a definition from a source on historical comparative linguistics.
I understand. I've read them all, and this is one of those.
Please do that for me. Please do that for me.
Listen to what I'm saying. Everyone, you have what you call people parading information. All they do is regurgitate certain things from other books, and they put together this notion that it is a hypothesis. And that is not the case. They're using, if it's a hypothesis, they're using the word hypothesis wrong, because a hypothesis is a declaration, based on some preliminary observation that has not been tested yet. If it has been tested, it is not a hypothesis at this point. So by the very nature of you calling it a hypothesis, after you've done all the experimentations and tests, shows that these people, I keep trying to tell folks that most linguists have no science background.
Mm-hmm.
And this
you said most Negroes?
I said linguist.
Linguist, okay. I'm sorry. No, I just asked. I didn't. I just asked. Okay, I understand.
Yeah. So this is the problem. We get in trouble because linguists like to borrow a lot of jargon from science and don't use it right. That's like when we use the term genetic relationships and families and evolution and all this other kind of stuff. The stuff that don't fit necessarily in linguistic context. They take words from biology, and they don't even take. This is what one of the things that Schumacher Keita was telling me, that we take biology words and we don't even take the best theories.
That's fine. Can you just okay? So if I went to the Handbook of Historical Linguistics, right, by Brian D. Joseph, right? You obviously disagree what he says about the definition of historical comparative linguistics.
Let's hear it, Reggie.
Even on Wikipedia, it tells you that its aim is to develop theories. Even on Wikipedia, if you go to historical comparative linguistics on Wikipedia, diachronic linguistics, it tells you that it's to develop theories about how and why languages change.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so and a theory is yet to be proven.
Hold on. What you talking about? A scientific theory or what you talking about?
Okay,
we're talking about the scientific theory. This is what I'm saying. Is that
I get it straight.
You're reading stuff, but you don't study in this field, so you don't know what is that.
Okay,
I'm trying to tell you, as a scientist, that you will find even Mboli uses the notion of a hypothesis when it comes to reconstruction.
Okay, let's stop.
I've had to argue with him over that.
Just stop. I don't understand. Stop throwing around this thing of being a scientist, right? I don't know. Maybe at some point in my life I did do science. Maybe at some point in my life I did have a degree in computer science. Right?
Oh man, here comes the resume.
Can I say something, Reggie?
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about it, but what I do know after beating up Double X, that
Yes.
linguistics is, you know what I'm saying? I mean, a science. You actually use.
I don't doubt that.
No. Listen to me. You will get beat the brakes off you if you try to doubt that.
Not okay. I'm not doubting that.
That's what I'm saying. You can't get past Wikipedia.
Yeah, I don't have to go to Wikipedia.
No. You should be able to get past Wikipedia.
Yeah, you should. So I just want to throw this whole thing with science out. You know,
you can't throw
You
science
can't
out.
throw science out. That's the
yeah.
point.
No, I'm not. This whole appealing to the authority of science. Like, look, here's my this is the journal that they put out, or on me graduating at City College in New York. Right? Yeah, right. So I want to just say, let me just see. I'm just trying to find out where they say.
Throw out science and enter UN.
Right. Well, okay. So what I'm trying to say is that I know you have done it before. Can you just give me the source so I can look it up where it says historical comparative linguistics?
Do it.
The conclusions are not hypothetical.
Let me give
That's
you.
all. That's all. That's all. I'm not here to.
So hold on. So if I give you one source, will you be quiet about this?
No, you need 10 of them. You know you need 10.
No.
Hold on. No. Because you know, you have this thing here that you don't think that I have sources for whatever it is.
No, I saw you footnote everything. I'm just asking you, why am I the enemy?
You're not the enemy.
Because I disagree. Look, I've been called recently a yellow, constipated son Negro by a head of a Kemetic shrine in public, right?
Nah, man, you Uncle Reg.
Yes.
We love you. We love you, Uncle Reg. You Uncle Reg. That's how we look at you.
I appreciate, but I'm still constipated. Need some sun. How can I say? Need a colonic from a head of a Kemetic shrine because I disagree with possibly his student. So I'm just here. Look, I'm not here to cause too much trouble.
Don't hide no names, Baba Haru. Not gonna
right. It's on the chat, but I'm just trying to say I'm just a student now.
Yes, if you're a student, listen to the person.
I have a degree. I know what a student is, sir. I actually have a degree, sir. I have a degrry in computer science, sir.
Linguistics. So
I don't know that.
Listen, you're trying to get rid of the very thing that defines the field. You say get rid of the science. The science is what you do and how you do it. This is what distinguishes.
No, I didn't do that. I misspoke. I was trying to get rid of or make a point about using that one person's a scientist and not another person is not a scientist. One person is trained as a scientist, and obviously I'm not trained as a scientist. So I'm just trying to get rid of this scientist thing and just ask you for your source, good brother.
Hold on one sec. I'll give you one source.
Yes.
We're going to go with Dr. Paisoli.
Okay.
Jonah Paisoli.
We need an American guy. We don't want no continental Africans. They don't know.
No. This is he's a Russian.
Oh shit.
He's a Russian linguist who has an entire. He's also a computer scientist. Got a PhD in linguistics, and him and his team have built an online comparative database of Indo-European, and it's based on mathematical methods and things of this nature. And in his PhD dissertation, there's a whole section in there describing how and why the scientific method, the historical comparative method is a scientific method, and how the reconstructions is not a hypothesis. Anybody with a background in science understands what a hypothesis is, and understanding what the stages are and where the hypothesis is in the stage and what you do at the conclusion. Your conclusion is your theory. That's what the reconstructions are. And so I'm going to find this source, and we're going to read this source together as a group, as a family, so we can put to rest this notion and stop listening to these other folks who just throw stuff out there who don't read. And I'm not saying you, Reggie. I'm talking about other folks who be trying to send you information.
Me and you, we just disagree. But, you know, Asar, I like Asar. I mean, I really, really do like Asar, right? But I just disagree. And so I'm just asking for, want to see it with my own eyes, because I have something else that I've seen with my own eyes, and it just says it's probable. That's all.
Okay, so y'all give
Asar is breaking up pretty bad.
All right, you breaking up, Asar. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What's going on here? How come Asar is breaking up when you got to pull up that source? What's going on here?
Asar, his line is on mute. So let me say this real fast. It's been a real weird flavor going through the community in the last year or so. So the community was kind of like based, I thought it was based off of trying to actually educate Black people from a perspective that is Black or a perspective that is African. Some kind of way now, and based off of just having the right to figure out this thing. All right, I think a lot of the things we were doing got very, very misconstrued, and all of a sudden it became, well, families, I'm a Raw Squad, and everybody else are using, like, you know, appealing to white people. That's the flavor was going through. Okay, so now, Real Black Atheism, I'm a Raw Squad. You know, we're actually using the white man science and the white man degrees and all of that. I heard it. To the degree where as though some kind of way it switched up to, well, now let's fight against Amara Squad and Real Black Atheists and Shashu, Mani Meta Necha and the Masi Clan Warriors. You know what I'm saying? Let's align ourselves with white people and fight them. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how it occurred. Sounds like everybody is damn mixed up to me. You know, we go into a debate against a whole community of rabid white people. I mean, rabid white people. You know, after the debate, I mean, these people are the most rude human beings I've ever seen in my life. I had never even remotely thought that a group of white people could be as arrogant and as rude. I've never seen people like that before, to the point where I can no longer say that Black people don't know how to act. I will literally cuss you out if you say that around me. It's not Black people don't know how to act. White people really don't know how to act when they think they know something. They are far past arrogancy, and entitlement shines through like a mother. I don't understand how the community is supposed to be blacked out. Black man is God, Black woman is God, white man is the devil. All came out on us. You don't know how to talk to people. Now, let me get this straight. Now, first of all, the running thing was, well, I bet you don't talk to some white people like that. That was the running thing. So I made sure I put certain emphasis on, you know what I'm saying, talking to them like I would talk to anybody else. By the time I did that, now all of a sudden, we don't know how to talk to white people. Now, all of a sudden, now you got to have a degree now to be able to have a certain level of excellence in a certain field of study. You see how y'all flip-flop back and forth based off an ability, based off y'all getting beat up, then you run over here, then you run over there. It's never well, damn, y'all did a damn good job. We either using all white people stuff, you know what I'm saying? Oh, we on the white man's side, you the police. So if you teach about vaccines and science, now you the police. You know what I'm saying? That's my main man, Martin the Martian, Minister Stinky Inky. Google Martin the Martian. Google that picture. That's him all the way. So it's a lot of flip-flopping here. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't understand the state of the damn community. It's almost like y'all don't see excellence. You know how sometimes you can be so close to something that you just don't recognize it until 20 years later, and you say, damn, I was in the company of some brothers and sisters that were serious and I didn't even know it. That's what it's gonna end up being. It's gonna end up being that right there. And now for the life of me, it's almost like we was teaching so hard, we were so misconstrued, and now people actually think that racism, white supremacy is no longer around. You can listen to the United States government, they will clearly tell you racism is still alive and kicking. This is the United States government will tell you that. First of all, we do not promote that in our present state, that we cannot get up and continue to compete against the establishment that has been racist from the very beginning. We do not say we can't compete against that. We do not give any excuses on our propensity to practice excellence. You will never hear the Amara Squad say that or use that as an excuse. You will never hear us say that at all, at all. But we never said that there is no longer a force out there that doesn't want Asar to do what he want to do. Asar told you how they will alleviate you out of a damn conflict. It's right there, right now in science. Look up Scientific Africa. They had to come up with their own goddamn international journal because you literally had Europeans coming into the country, right? Going to certain countries, doing research, have Africans help them on the research, and they fucking alleviate their name off the papers. It's not even all their research. They wasn't given a fair shake. I don't know why you think that all of a sudden, because we can go to goddamn McChickens and McDonald's and Geno's and Burger King and Whole Food Market in Harlem, you know what I'm saying? And we can vote and we can talk shit to the police and we can do all that now, that all of a sudden everything is super smooth. It's not. We still have to stand up and never forget. So whenever I attack any situation, whether it's science, whether it's literature, whether it's anything, I always have in the back of my mind that there was a group of people that enslaved my ancestors and put them in a situation to have to goddamn restart over again and again and again, continually. And I also remember that system that enslaved my ancestors have also convinced Black people to go against other Black people. So I'm not saying because you Black, you right. And I'm not saying because you white, you wrong, or because you white, you right, and because you Black, you wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm gonna do like we supposed to do. I'm gonna follow the damn evidence and I'm gonna alleviate the color out of it. That's what I'm gonna do. Because my question to you is, well, if it was an all Black department, would that still yield results favorable? Does that mean because you Black, you can't have human error? If we had all Black doctors working on vaccines, does that mean that somebody wouldn't go the back way and some kind of way mess it up and we not know it, trying to get a better, like, does it mean that? We cannot allow color to trick us. We just can't.
I agree with all of that.
I'm ready.
That's what you're trying to do. Get your damn point.
Okay.
I'm ready with that source.
Okay, can you put the source in the chat so I can look it up while you after you read it? I appreciate that.
Cool, big. So let's share my screen.
Yeah. Can you just can you put it in the regular chat so I can look it up?
I'll do that later. So okay. The title of the text is System. It says PIE, but that stands for Proto-Indo-European. The primary phoneme inventory and sound law system for Proto-Indo-European by Dr. Jonah Pasalu. This is a PhD dissertation which is about the online database and the correction of the laryngeal theory in Proto-Indo-European. This is starting on page 68. I'm sorry? Okay, I said I'm on page 68 of the document. And so I'm going to read this section here, and then we're going to go here. So it says, the meaning of the term reconstruction, in quotes, has become somewhat blurred, owing to its different applications in connection with historical, therefore internal, and these are types of comparisons here, and comparative reconstructions, internal and external. The occasionally heated discussion on the topic is a result of misunderstanding caused by unsatisfactory definitions. As everyone knows, we always define stuff first. And I would like to comment on this situation briefly. Historical linguistics is sometimes understood as an independent science and not the x-axis of comparative, a platform for unrestricted hypothetical deductive models. This line of thought is exemplified by a quote from Kummel, 2012-291, who opens his paper with this statement. When we reconstruct a proto-language, we produce a hypothesis about a non-attested synchronic state and about the changes leading from it to the attested languages. So he's quoting this here as something that you could just find in pretty much any linguistic text. This is what some of the prevailing thought. But he corrected, below. So he says, from the comparative point of view, associating reconstruction with forming hypotheses is not acceptable. Rather than making hypotheses, the comparative method results in proto-phonemes discovered empirically and experimentally based on correspondence sets defined by data. Every correspondence set finding a protophoneme must be reconstructed based on observed phonemes and features, therefore identities of the first class. And you have to read up further to understand the first class, second class thing. In this process, hypotheses are not formed because the unambiguous portion of the data is analytically projected onto the proto-language through the axiom of the identity x equals x. For example, in Rig Veda, S equals Proto-Indo-European S. And so you can write this in the logical formula that Rig Veda S implies, Proto-Indo-European S, starting form. So according to Sletter's original definition, the reconstruction style designates inferred forms obtained through comparison with the Indo-European data. The idea that there is no written evidence for its existence is not entirely true either, because written evidence of the unchanged phonemes and properties exists, and precisely that forms the core of the reconstruction. In this sense, comparative reconstruction is analytically and directly obtained from the preserved data. From a logical point of view, Proto-Indo-European therefore exists in the unchanged phonemes and features of the descendants, and it is the goal of the comparative method to restore that language through reconstruction. Occasionally, internal, synchronic, or structural reconstruction has been set in opposition to the comparative method. From the comparative point of view, by understanding internal comparison, okay, this is going to a different conversation here. But as he shows that it is not you're not formulate hypothesis after you have went through the process of deductive experimental processes. And so we have is at the end as a theory, and as Wujaru, saying read from the Wikipedia article, you develop theories. And so the hypothesis you have at the beginning, we do experiments in linguistics. And so this is why I tell folks there's a lot to learn when it comes to historical comparative linguistics. And just like Egyptology, you cannot get through this. And, it requires, some math, and it requires knowing logical thinking, how to construct truth tables, and all of this other kind of stuff. But there's no way that a reconstruction is a hypothesis. That goes against the very definition, especially since we go through empirically experimental data to come to the conclusion of the reconstructed phoneme. And so some of those phonemes still survive in the living languages of today. So you're projecting those phonemes back in time into your reconstruction. So it's not a hypothesis. They live on in the living languages today. And so again, as I was saying with the conversation with Joshua, you really have to sit down and learn all the nuances and details of historical comparative linguistics. And it's not something you can just run through in a day, randomly reading some stuff and not understanding the logic behind the process. So this is a source, and
yeah, I don't want to spend too much time. I just I don't see where the conclusions or probable. So I have to look at this. I can see the process. I can see the process with the Proto-Indo-European language. I can actually see that. I just need to read the article, but
it's a dissertation. It's a whole entire dissertation.
Yeah. So So, but the conclusion of the reconstruction, right? You're not saying that you could say that every conclusion is how can I say is exact, or are you saying, or is it just probable?
Predictive.
Predictive is a good word. I mean, I can
predictive though.
Yeah. So when we've had this long conversation on a single word called Kemet. So Kemet has nothing to do with the whole language. Has something to do
here
with
you
the
go.
word.
Speaking of that word, Kemet, get the book Illusoire. All right.
Eventually, Asar. I will.
What is it, Asar?
Uncle Butcher a name in a heartbeat, y'all.
I've never heard pronounce the name right.
Illusoire. Illuja.
I mean, that is a pretty. That's a pretty thick book. Just the half of it.
Yeah. Hey Reggie, if I hit you with this damn book, I'll knock you out, yo.
All the way in New York. All the way in. It's a weapon. It's a weapon.
This 500-something pages right here. I'm being here.
Well, hey, listen, Asar, congratulations on being able to produce a book that size. How many pages is it?
It's 500 at the end.
Man, Garfield, I don't know about this. Garfield got a 400-page book coming out.
But keep in mind that this book size is 8.5 by 11.
Correct.
So I don't know how much that would. I don't know how much that would be in a regular 6 by 9.
He ain't got no little words. If you know how big books we have, big ass words.
Yeah, I don't think a 6 by. I don't think a 6 by 9 or 3 by 9 could contain all those pages. So I mean, Garfield is putting down some work too. 400 pages, boy. He little Asar now.
All I can say is, bro, you missed a lot of hangouts with this. That's all I can tell you. What you doing? I'm not talking. I'm writing. What you doing? I'm not coming on hangout. What you doing? Shit, you free at last now, yo.
No, I don't. I got classes.
Oh, damn,
so I got to code all day and do math problems, and I got to grade papers and all that other good stuff. So
my favorite chapter as I read is chapter 4, the African origin of the word science. That's for all y'all knuckleheads to keep being knuckleheads. All
hey,
right.
I want to.
I put that link in there too. Anybody want to join in? Come on, join in. Get beat up.
I wanted to
Get
if
beat
y'all
up.
don't mind,
We had
I wanted
to.
to I wanted to at least briefly discuss some of the details of the conversation today. Like because
Peace and
Asar,
love to the family.
peace.
Peace and love.
At least
This brother Ngozi.
Yeah, we know your damn voice, guys, and goes.
Yeah, peace and love to the family. I'm gonna sit back. I'm listening though.
What's up? What you think about
Oh, no.
what's up with the discussion? What you think about it? Did you watch it?
I think that the discussion, I don't think that Brother Asar ever debunked Afro-Asiatic, and I told him that before. I think Brother Asar, I want to congratulate him on his book, but I don't believe he debunked Afro-Asiatic. And if there is a field where you could not just use archaeology and anthropology, but you could use genetics with it, just studying people that speak the so-called language family that they label as Afro-Asiatic, they all have the same genetic components. Even going back in ancient times, you can study the Iberian Marusians. You see the same genetic components in Northeast Africa for the last 20,000 years, all the way to when you reach the Natufians in the Levant. You can see it dealing with the Harifian culture. And what Brother Asar did talk about with the Proto-Semitic languages coming out of the Sahara, and they talked about that also in that book, Gun Steals and Germs or whatever. A few people know about Proto-Semitic coming out of the Sahara, but when they went into the Levant, the people that was already there that he spoke on were already heavily mixed. They were remnants of the Natufians, and they were also remnants of those people that left from out of Iran and those Anatolian farming groups who all fused together. So it's a timeline to see what's what. And they had their own isolated language, but they adopted the Semitic, which is the last stratum of Afro-Asiatic before you get into this later stratum of Akkadian and Ugaritic. So I think the discussion was powerful. I just don't think that Brother Asar proved his premise that Afro-Asiatic is false. I don't think it's, I don't think, because just looking at the genetic trails, I can't give the ancient Egyptians, to me and my personal research. I don't see them as being us, and I don't see the ancient Egyptians speaking any form of Bantu language in Niger Congo, but I do see loan words. They did exchange things, and because we got to understand the genetics are older than the language families. Before these languages exist, people carry these genes before the languages exist. I mean, just studying E3B or EM215 alone and EV38, that marker goes back 42,000 years. The earliest phase probably of Proto-Afro-Asiatic, and then just hypothetically speaking, if it exists in a proto form, it exists only 18,000 years ago if we base our thesis off Christopher Ehret. So the markers, the DNA markers exist before the language families. But then when you follow the trails of the migratory route or human population, you can see that most of these people, from the Berbers to the Somalians to Eritreans to modern day Egyptians to modern day people in the Levant, they all have the same genetic features. Not just dealing with no little small haplogroup, but even going into the autosomal DNA and then even going into the human leukoantigens. It's all similar compared to where we come from in Southwest and Central Africa. Our immune response totally different. Our methods of farming was different. The certain things that we take in that they don't take in, is different. We don't even have, a lot of us don't even have a lactase consistent gene or LCT gene that modern Egyptians or ancient Egyptians had. Most of us can't even deal with milk the way the Egyptians did. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, like, I don't think he proved his point. That's just me.
Okay, so let me.
Well, hold on. I just want to say real quick that it's not an issue of me proving my point. We weren't discussing the merits of Afro-Asiatic, so I didn't present anything on Afro-Asiatic, other than to mention that it has not, by the standards of historical comparative linguistics, been established as a language phylum. And so, and I provide a lot of the citations from, since everybody want to think that all Black African scholars are biased on this, nothing but European white folks who talk about Afro-Asiatic and how it doesn't exist. And so, but none of that was presented today. So of course I couldn't have proven my case because we didn't discuss it. And so just
what you did, Brother Asar, you proved yourself as the authority of everything that you say. And even with the African linguists, those people are only accredited amongst themselves. They're not accredited in outside fields.
It's like you brought up, for example, it was a good show. You brought up a sister and her mother, and they come from a specific tribe, and the language. You can do that with any language, bro. You can find certain words in Indo-European. No, let me just say this. Africans lie too. I wouldn't take what an African say with a you can't. Africans, you can match Hebrew. Some you got Africans saying that they come from Israel. You got Europeans saying they come from Mecca. You got these people saying they come from Arabia. And even when you look at the languages, like for example, you brought up, okay, let's talk about this one. Sumerian, because I don't want to get off the subject, right? The Sumerian language, and you matched a few Bantu words up with it, and you say you showed and proved whatever your premise is. But you have Indian scholars who match up the Sumerian language with Tamil. They do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying, and you brought up something about the Indo-Europeans. The Indo-European speakers, most of them, and I'm bringing this up, all have a genetic trail. Most Indo-European, the Persians, R1A, British people, R1B. These different groups, they have a genetic trail, and we know where that trail comes from. Those Yemenite groups who brought the Indo-European language family. One thing about these people that speak languages, they have DNA, but there's a genetic trail based off the language. If we just use modern time, just follow the trail, you can see what's going on. So, I'm just saying, like, I don't see why there's a problem with introducing or bringing genetics with it, because genetics kind of like fulfill and ends the story. Because when you're just dealing with linguistics alone, because linguistics alone could be hypothetical. You have to have the proper scientific methodology in it. You have to include with archaeology and anthropology. Genetics itself is the final nail to it all, because there's a trail that we can see today based off what people are doing and how people are living and certain things that they're doing and their levels of responding to things. It's a trail. So that, I don't understand why there's a problem to it. That's why I said, like, you do understand the rules of linguistics. Let me just say this, Asar. Asar. Hold on, Asar. Let me just say this. Let me just finish. I got one more thing. I got one more thing I want to say. You do understand linguistics. I give you that. You understand the methodology of linguistics. But what I'm saying is that if a lot of people don't understand it, they could be. You can override their minds if they don't understand the rules. You know the rules. Brother Wujah know the rules. But you can do that with any language, bro. You can do that with any language. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right, let me just
to go back to the
Come on, Sal, let Wujah get in here. You go back. Let Wujah get in real quick.
Okay.
Well, I think Asar's probably gonna echo. I'm probably gonna echo what Asar's about to say. I was gonna say that today, just to be clear to the audience too, that today's topic discussion on Asar's channel was not a treatment on the validity of Afroasiatic. So to say that Asar didn't prove that point, that's really just a totally different.
It came up though, Wujah. But it came up, Wujah. It did come up for a little while. It was short, but it came up. Let's just be real. It came up though. But I'm hearing you, brother. It was about critiquing the book overall. It was about critiquing what Joshua did in his video. I understand what it was overall about. It was about going over what he did, what he said about the book. I understand that, but Afroasiatic did come up.
There was no conversation about Afroasiatic. So to sit here,
but it came up though, brother. It did come up.
No, a lot of things came. A lot of things came up, but that's still not a justification for you to come and accuse Asar of not proving his point. That's my point.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell you, we didn't discuss. He brought it up, but we didn't discuss Afroasiatic.
But brother Wujah, brother Asar, both of you, bro. Let me just ask y'all a question.
I just brought it up. Barnum and Bailey Circus. I brought it up. What does that mean?
Let me ask you a question, though. Listen, you guys know that the whole argument that we ever had, even when I was with the Amun Ra squad, I'm talking about amongst us, has always been Afroasiatic and Bantu language. So what I'm asking y'all is this, okay, you saying it didn't come up, but that's what the whole Team Osiris issue is. Team Osiris issue is that we want you guys to show and prove, because according to you, brother Asar, you say it. If you didn't say it on this show, you say it all the time. Afroasiatic isn't real. It doesn't exist. The whole point is we don't agree with that. We don't agree that the Egyptians was Bantu, and we don't agree that the Egyptians was us either.
The source where Afroasiatic was established using the standard historical comparative method. That is the method used to establish genetic relationships. This is in every single.
So Christopher Everett hasn't done that in that orange and white book. Christopher Everett hasn't. Oh, okay. So he hasn't. So hold on. So you tell us. So
matter of fact, let's do it like this. You made the argument that the linguistics is hypothetical. You're really talking about reconstructions. Have you ever read Christopher Everett's 1995?
I got 3 of his books. I got the orange and white book, the African, Afro-Asiatic, the whatever it's called. Once I get to the crib, I can get that out. I got that one, and I got a few of his books. But what I'm saying is that
the words being compared, are they from any living language outside of Egyptian? Egyptian is the only language that he uses that is a living language.
He compared, bro. Okay, we could talk about James P. Allen. I got James P. Allen work too. He matched one time. He matched Hausa or Chadic.
He doesn't reconstruct any languages.
Hey, just pause.
That's literally a hand.
I'll start. Can everybody?
So you're telling me that? So brother James P. the guy James P. Allen didn't say in his book, in a book, he matched the Egyptian literature or language up with the Chadic languages and other Afro-Asiatic languages. He spoke on it plenty of stuff.
It's not about what he says. This is what I'm trying to get y'all to understand. When I'm asking you for the demonstration, I need the text where we can see line for line the 200 minimum word list of basic vocabulary that he is comparing to reconstruct the language family. There doesn't exist when it comes to Eric. It doesn't exist with James P. Allen. James P. Allen didn't even do that kind of work. When you're talking about Stabova or any of them, I have all their works. None of that exists. You would never find a text where they do that in the comparisons with the language. When you read, he has Proto-Semitic compared to Proto-Cushitic, compared to Proto-Chadic, compared to Egyptian, and I think Proto-Omatic. If proto-languages are all hypothetical and unreal, you can't compare hypothetical, unreal languages. But
this is where you put genetics in it. What I'm saying is the final nail on the coffin is genetic. Most of these people got the same genetic patterns. I'm gonna say it again. Amharic speaking people, Yee speaking people, Oromo people. Bro, they did not. They were not Bantus, bro. The Egyptians were not Bantus. You're matching Bantus. You are doing this yourself in your own reality. That's what you're doing, bro.
In your own reality, show me in your reality papers that demonstrate that you can detect.
You got the literature yourself, bro.
Listen to what I'm asking.
Allow people to talk.
All right, hold. This is what we're gonna do. Everybody chill. Everybody chill for a minute. Look, we don't want to talk over nobody, man. It's a good discussion, right? I will
happens all the time when you ask them the basic questions.
Hold on 1 second.
No, I'm not yelling. I'm asking. No, what I'm saying.
I ain't saying you yelling, bro. I'm saying you talk. You got the super fast E1B1 E1B1. Come on.
It's all love. It's all love.
Hold on, Gozy. Hold on. So let me ask you just one question. And come on, bro. You know, man, you talk genetics, man.
Yes, sir.
I just want your honest opinion. You and I both know, based off of the study of genetics, that just whatever a person's DNA marker is, that in no way defines what the hell they saying out their mouth. Me and you know that you can't even detect that. That's impossible for real, because people move so much back and forth. Like take us for example. If 300 years from now, 5,000 years from now, they dig up our graves, right? They don't know what the hell we were speaking. They would say based off our genetic markers that we come from Africa. So they would have to know the history of how we got over here. And then they would have to figure out what language we were speaking. You know what I'm saying? So they could never say what language we were speaking. Was I a continental African that came over here? Or did I learn French when I came over here? Was I, you know what I'm saying? What group of Europeans I colonized by would determine what language I was. So I want to ask you an honest question. Can you determine what language a person speaks based off of their genetic markers?
Well. If you look at it like that, no. Like I'm mainly sub-Saharan African, but I speak.
No, we good. I'm done. That's cool.
No. Let me just say this. Let me finish it though. I just want to finish it. I want to finish it. I'm mainly sub-Saharan African, but I speak English, and English is a part of Indo-European language family, right? Let's talk about the group population of America. So if they dug me and you up, they're gonna look at the overall population. Okay, why does these sub-Saharan Africans exist in America? Who was the ruling class? Majority of America is European. And because the majority of America, and they control the resources. So majority of America, they're going to look up a few of the Africans, which me and you are, which is EM2 carriers, right? They exist here, but they exist amongst a bunch of Europeans as the majority. So it makes sense why these people spoke Indo-European language. Because for one reason, they were the minority, and they were surrounded by a majority of population that were predominantly European descent. So why wouldn't we speak it when we're surrounded by them? And that's the same example for ancient Egyptians. You probably had a few
Africans that speak 5 languages.
There's no link.
No, I'm sorry. You say who?
And so in this situation here,
let me interrupt you real quick, Asar. You're gonna have to go out and come in or something because you're real choppy and nobody can hear people saying it even in chat.
So like Brother Unc was saying, like I agree with Brother Unc, you cannot determine based off, like, for example, we're Africans in America, and we have EM2. So looking at us, you're like, damn, these people should be speaking the Niger Congo language. They fossils is here. But they exist around a majority of people that's European. So it makes sense that because the dominant group that controlled America, the dominant fossils that we found is predominantly European. Remember, white Americans still make up 65% of the United States of America, 65 to 70%. Not to mention Hispanics. Their limb proportions and their human leukoantigens, even though they're triracial, but a lot of Hispanics are predominantly of European descent. Not all of them, but a lot of them. When you include all that together, it makes sense why these sub-Saharan African fossils, if they had a language family, spoke English, because they were surrounded by nothing but Europeans. And that's the same thing with the ancient Egyptians. The ancient Egyptians were predominant.
I have a question.
What about
Go
ahead, sis. Let the sis get in. Go ahead, sis.
Okay, so let's say like somebody, like I am from Kenya, and we have 42 different tribes. So let's say, and we're all Black.
Yeah.
And we speak 42 different languages. And 100 years from now, somebody finds different fossils of different Kenyans around different areas around that country. Through their genetics, would they be able to determine which language each particular fossil was, was speaking?
Well, the president of Kenya today is a cool, right? I mean, I can't say it right, but what is it? Cool. Is that the yeah, he's Kikuyu, right? And the Kikuyus are Bantus. The Maasai are Nilotic. So basically, so let me just say this: majority of the people in Kenya, you got a lot of immigrants over there now. You got a lot of Somalis over there now. I know about the Somali world, but what I'm saying is that overall, you have the Kikuyus, which is Bantu speakers. You have, or so-called Bantu speakers, because they migrated over there. Regardless to whatever it is, majority of the population of Kenya is sub-Saharan African.
But my question is, we are all sub-Saharan, but we are, hold on, because when I forget the Somalis, I'm talking about 42 different indigenous tribes, not not the Somalis and all that. So
all y'all look the same.
Exactly. I don't look like, but you can look at me and tell my tribe. But what I'm saying is, 100 years from now, how would you be able to look at the different fossils that you come across in that geography and tell which language that person was speaking?
Well, when they look at here's the thing. We have to look at the majority of the population. Majority of the population of Kenya is still, I compared America like with Brother Unc. He asked the question and I'm answering it. Majority of America is predominantly European. The minority is sub-Saharan African. Majority of Kenya is still sub-Saharan African. You look at, I brought up Somalis for a reason. Their morphology is different than y'all. They're still the minority compared to the other groups that's predominantly sub-Saharan African. So if they looked at the Somali fossils, they'll say like, these limb proportions are subtly different than majority of the limb proportions. What was the ruling class language? Okay, I'm going to look at these people, the majority, and see what language family they spoke. It's either a Nilotic language, because the Nalos was there first, or it's a Bantu language, because these are the fossils that we find as majority compared to these Somalians. Their limb proportions is subtly different from y'all. Their human leukoantigens is different from y'all, but still the majority of Kenya is sub-Saharan African. So it only makes sense that these fossils that looks like this, that we find majority in this country, had to be the ruling class that dominates the territory. That's why I asked you what was the president.
Do you understand the question that I just asked you? Because you're not answering my question.
No, I am answering your question.
No. You went to the Somalis. I didn't ask you that.
No, I brought up Somalis. I brought up Somalis because the Somalians are the minority in your country. I'm gonna answer it again. I'm gonna say it again one more time. I can do it as many times. It doesn't matter. You're the queen. Okay, here's the thing. The majority of the people in Kenya are Niger, Congo, or Nilotic, and they all have a specific feature that's similar. And the ruling class of Kenya, the Kikuyus that you brought up, he's the president, it's a Bantu language. The Somalians, who are a minority in that country, but they're there. Their limb proportions of fossils, their skulls is different than you guys. So if it was 100 years from now, and I dug, let me finish. If I dug up some Somalians, if I dug up the skulls of Somalians, but I seen a surrounding population of skulls that's different than these Somalians, it would make sense. We can't say, well, they look different. They should be speaking some other type of language, but they're surrounded by this larger population who has a specific language. So the surrounding population had to have the ruling class. The ruling class. So whatever the larger population is what the language family would have been. That's all I'm saying.
So
the
basically
major language
you're
family.
saying that you would only be able to use your method if you found Somali fossils.
No.
Because
Again,
you're trying to run, you're not really answering the question.
I am. Brother Unc asked the question.
We have Somalis. You could have used Indians. We could have used anything. But I'm just trying to ask you about
Indian and Somalian skull is the same. Somalian's morphology is Caucasoid. It's not Negroid. If we want to live, I'm going to use the racist old terms.
So what would happen if
forensic.
you found a fossil that belonged to either of the majority of the tribes in Kenya?
Well, they do it today. When they looked up the pastoralist groups with the EV15 marker, it showed that they came from a group, because you find Cushitic populations in Tanzania that's near, but it shows that specific marker is mainly found with a lot of Afro-Asiatic speakers, but you find it amongst Nilotic speakers now. For some reason, they adopted that culture.
I'll help you with
and I'm answering it to you.
Quick question. She said they left from Kenya, went to different countries. What language would they speak?
No.
Based on the fossils, that's the point.
Right, and based on, and I'm asking the question. Based off I'm gonna say, let me just say it one more time, and it will take me 5 seconds. Based off the fossils, majority of the ruling class to this day in Kenya has a specific feature and a specific phenotype. If I was to go over there 20 years from now and dig up all these people, we're going to see the majority of these people. Before I understand these people, I want to understand the area that I'm in, the geographics, and I want to understand the people that control the territory, what language family that they have. So it makes sense that majority of these fossils look a specific way, so they had to speak a specific language. So okay, but if I came across some, let me just say that no, it makes sense if you think about what I'm saying. If I found some Somalians,
You already admitted that there's no correlation between biology and language.
So let's say this.
You already admitted that. So there's no way
but you're
also can tell what language the people spoke. Okay, especially in Africa, since they're multilingual.
Okay,
bro, listen. It doesn't, bro. Most of them multilingual. They are multilingual now, but they still have a front-based language that control it. Period. Yes, they can speak multiple languages, but they still have a. Go ahead.
Okay, listen to.
Wait, 1 second. Let me just say this. And Ngozi, let's bypass all of that. What you're trying to do? Let me ask you straight out, so everybody can hear it. Is there a genetic marker in anybody's body that will tell you what language they spoke? Yes or no?
That doesn't make sense. Why would it be a genetic marker that determines the language?
I didn't ask you that. Yes or no? Is there a genetic marker? For
There is not a genetic marker that can determine what language you speak. No, that doesn't make sense.
Okay. There you go.
But hold on, no, but that's reverse psych. But no, that's reverse psychology though. No, but that's playing games because that's reverse. No, you didn't know, but no. Let me just say this.
Wait, no.
See, you can
because you spoke a lot. You spoke a lot, and let me.
You can get.
No.
You can get me. Go ahead, Queen.
Give me 1 minute. Okay, because you spoke a lot and you said a few things. I could narrow it down for you and just actually say two of the majority tribes, like the Luo and the Kikuyu. And you talked about phenotypes. I have a phenotype that does not put me together with my tribe. I have a Kenyan phenotype as well. So it does not you can't use phenotypes to actually tell what language somebody speaks.
Sister, listen, let me just say this. Let me ask you a question. A lot of the people in Kenya are mixed with Cushitic and Nilotic. So even if you don't look like, let me just say this. No. I don't know if you guys like. I follow genetics all day. I can talk about this all day. We follow genetics too, but no. Let me just finish. Let me finish what I'm saying. She say she don't look like. She say she don't look. She say she don't look. Well, no, I'm going to get back to the language. You say you don't look like a specific typical Kenyan. Okay.
No, I didn't say that. I said I look Kenyan. I just said I did not look specifically as per my tribe. So when you are trying to lean on different tribes, you could tell by
what tribe? Okay, what tribe are you?
I'm Luo.
Okay, you're Luo, right?
Right.
And Luo, and isn't Obama's father a Luo?
Obama's Luo, right? That's correct. Yes.
Okay, and they supposedly speak a Nilotic language, right? They have limb proportions similar to the nerves, right?
Okay, let me just correct you on one thing. When we say we are Luo, does it and that being grouped under Nilotic, I will let you know that Luo is a whole group of different tribes that actually include.
But they're all Nilotic though. But linguistically, they're Nilotic speaking people.
Linguistically, yes. But what I'm trying to say is that Luo is actually a injection of different tribes, smaller tribes that actually are Bantu as well, that actually through time, through marriage, through wars, actually got integrated to the Luo. So you can't use it's a language. It has nothing to do with it.
Listen, Queen.
Let me finish so I can take my point. So you can understand.
Go ahead.
So even if you were to use genetics, you would find a lot of Luo people that actually are Bantu as well. Would actually fall under people who speak Bantu languages like Kikuyu. So you can't really. That's the point that is being made.
But I don't think you're listening to what I'm saying. I just said before. You just said that the Kenyans are mixed. They have some of them got a little Cushitic in them, and some of them have a little Bantu in them. So no one is 100% anything. But what I'm trying to say is, no. I'm not finished.
All right.
No. I'm not even finished though. I want to ask her a question though. I want to ask her a question though. A majority. Hold on. Let me ask her a question though. Asar, before you go in, I'm gonna listen to you. We all building. A Nilotic morphology is similar to a lot of the so-called Bantu-speaking group morphology. So what I'm trying to say is that so it used to be about the nerve. Yes. Hold on. Let me say something. The nerve. Some of them have Bantu components genetically, but the nerve overall linguistically are part of a Nilotic language family. So the thing about Africa, let me just say that my mother's Fulani. My grandmother's Algerian. I know about Africa. On that side, but I've been raised culturally African American. So what I'm trying to say is that I understand like what you're saying, like when you say, yes, the Nur, the Dinka, the Luo, they're all Nilotic. But yes, they have some insertions of a little Bantu speaker, the typical genetics that a Bantu speaker have, and some of them even have certain genetics that a certain Cushitic, a Oromo Ethiopian or a Somalia have, because they all live in those zones. But when you look at their limb proportions overall, they will be similar compared to a person that's so-called specifically directly Somali, regardless. So even if you look subtly different on the outside externally from a Dinka or a Nur, overall your limb proportions, I guarantee you, is a lot similar. to compare and contrast with one of them than the typical Somali.
Okay.
I'm just saying. And to answer Wuja's question, let me just say this. To answer Wuja's question, he asked me, "Is there a genetic?" No, there is no gene that determines a language family. It doesn't make sense. But there's a trail. But it is a but. It is. Asar. No, it's not. It is a but. It is a but. Let me tell you. Let me tell you why there's a but. No, there is a no. It is a but. You won't let me talk. I'm going to tell you the but. I'm going to tell you right now. Majority of the Indo-European speaking people within that language family to this day has a specific marker that you can see all around. That's the but. I don't care what you say. And the same thing with the Afro-Asiatic speakers. Modern Egyptians, EM78. Somalis, EM78 in the form of EB32. Egyptians, EB12. The Berbers, EM81. They all have specific subclades of E3B, and that same marker go all the way.
In Gozi, you've already admitted. Listen. Listen. You've already.
I understand it, man.
In Gozi, you've already admitted that there is no biological genetic correlation to language. The conversation ends. We can talk about.
It doesn't end. It doesn't end because these genetics have a no. It doesn't. These genetics. No, it doesn't. No, these genetics have the people with these genes have.
This conversation. I'll put it like
brother,
this.
Listen.
You provide me a scientific source. Matter of fact, give me 5 scientific sources that link genetics and DNA, where we can look at the actual markers and it determines what language people speak. Until you provide that. I don't want to hear nothing.
Brother, listen. You can make up. Listen, I'm gonna say it again. Most Niger Congo speakers, whether it's Mindis, whether it's Yoruba, whether it's Bantu, whether it's Atlantic Congo, Volta Congo, they have a specific marker, and you can see it amongst them today. EM2 and EM33, and a lot of them have a sickle cell strain component. You can see it amongst them today in West and Central Africa. EM2 is, and the only reason why Ramesses III possibly had it, if they didn't make a mistake, because we don't want to talk about that, but the only reason why he possibly had it is because a few of those people in the last phase of that Holocene leaked back into the Sahara and went back east. And when they went back east, as you said on the show, there were already people lingering around the Nile. And those were predominantly EM78. So you do have a few EM2s that leak back that way. And what I'm saying is that the languages, people that carry genetics today, you can see the commonality in the language family that they carry today in each population, in each area where these people live. I don't understand how you can get past that. That don't make sense.
Hey, Gozi, how would you judge finding a population of Mexicans all speaking goddamn Spanish?
It makes sense. No, I'm gonna tell you why. Because Mexicans, their limb proportions is mixed. They're a combination between Spanish, European. They're mestizos. It makes sense. They were dominant paternally. Let me answer our question. They're mestizos. Paternally, most Mexicans are R1B M269, like their Spanish forefathers. Their mothers or maternally are mainly Native Americans. And when you look at their limb proportions, they have mixed limb proportions. So it makes sense when you look at the Mexican. They're mestizos. They have a morphology that's similar to a paleo-mongoloid, but the back of the skull appears to be elongated or flattened like a modern Caucasoid, and his limbs is long. He don't look like this population of paleo-mongoloids from 4,000 years before, but in this area, you can see the fusion. And let's look up the history of these people. Let's look up how did they come into being who they are as Mexicans. Most Mexicans are mestizos.
So Mexican bones can
but they be mixed with Europeans.
Yes, they did mix with Europeans, and they speak Spanish. They speak a European language. Spanish, Indo-European.
You already admitted that there's no genetic marker that determines language. But these people that carry genetic markers speak a language. I need you to provide scientific sources or in the conversation because you're getting repetitive. I'm answering the question. So Asar, let me ask you a question. Y'all asking me questions. Y'all asking me questions. Let me ask you a question. Asar, you asking me questions. Let me ask you a question. Okay.
Hold on, you gotta
I
provide the source.
understand.
Though.
Wait, hold on. You got to provide the source for your.
Okay, let's talk. Okay, that's the rules. Okay, listen.
Where you think
I want you to look up. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Where you think I should start reading that for that source, and then you can ask your
What
question.
on genetics? Shit, you can get into. You can look up natural.
Genetics and its relationship to language.
Oh, look up the Yemenayas and look up the language family. Yemenaya, Indo-European language family, and Yemenaya. And it shows you the trail and the genetic trail. It's all put together. So if you type up Yemenayas for Indo-European and look up the language family, or another type up
You do know that that there were already people around Europe that adopted Indo-European languages.
Because okay, let's get into the hold on, no, let's get hold on.
You can't keep cutting people off when they start talking.
All right, I'm gonna ask you a question. Go ahead.
Courtesy is when someone's talking, you let them finish. And then
hey, it's all out of love, Asar. I ain't mad. You know I get excited, man. It's love. Don't trip. I'm listening.
Real platform in years. We trying to get it all in. This is
we. Hey, this is a reunion. This is a reunion, man. So Asar, listen. Listen. I have no animosity, bro. I promise. We just build it. We build
I
it.
understand. I'm just saying. There's an ebb and flow to conversations. You know, you can.
Okay, my fault. Go ahead, King.
That cut off.
Get it in, King.
And goes he fighting for his life.
Get it in. It's all love. I'm listening, brother. I'm gonna be quiet.
They should be in this motherfucker. Where you at? Where Tiffany and them at? They should be helping. Where they at? Where Joshua?
Hey, I think it's a beautiful build, but I want y'all to know I'm only excited. I'm here. We building. I want to make sense out of reality too. So I'm listening. Go ahead, brother. So I'm gonna fall back and listen. Then I want to answer too. Let me answer too when you finish.
All I'm requesting, and of course you don't have to provide it now. I don't expect you to just pull out the data.
Okay.
But before next Saturday, just give us those scientific papers that establish that positively establish the languages with DNA, where we can assess their methods and go from there.
Okay. I will do that, and I thank y'all for allowing me to have time to bring my sources, because Amara Squad is about sources, so we're gonna bring the sources. I will do that, I promise, before this Saturday. And I want to talk about just right quick, if y'all don't mind, can I say what I'm gonna say? You know what I'm saying on the Indo-European thing, just to add on to a little bit of what you were saying, Brother Asar?
I'm correct.
Okay, you are correct. Before Indo-European came into Europe, there were two phases of European waves that were there. You had the Mesolithic Europeans, who were what Cheddar Man was that they just discovered, and you had the Neolithic Anatolian farmers. They came from out of Turkey, or early Turkey. They came and brought agriculture up there before the Yemenayas came there. The Yemenayas is a base population that they use as an example to talk about the so-called Indo-European language family spreading. They call them the pastoralist milk-drinking Russians, or the pastoralist wave that came from the Russian steppes and came in and brought the Indo-European language family. And that's correct. There were groups of people that were up there, Mesolithic Europeans and Neolithic Europeans. Mesolithic Europeans died out, then the Neolithic Europeans came in, and after the Neolithic Europeans, this is when you find the Indo-European language family, which gave rise to the Bell Beaker cultures and different things in Europe. So I am aware of that, but they source the Indo-European language family to the Yemenayas that brought it there from the Russian steppes. The same way that's connected to the, since they found the Harappa fossils of India, they know that based off those fossils, that the Harappa civilization didn't have an Aryan component or Aryan, like when you talk about genetics or whatever, it doesn't have a language. No, it doesn't have a language. But based off what they found with the Harappa civilization skull, the female skull, and they sequenced the DNA from the ear of the skull, the ear column part of the skull, they was able to see that it didn't have a lot of the components that a lot of modern Hindus have, or Hindi-speaking people today have. And that gave them the idea that the Harappa group did not speak an Indo-European language, because the genetic component that most of the Indo-European speakers of India today have is absent from the Harappa fossils that was there. So they gave them the idea that these were Tamilian group speaking people or Dravidian type of people. They had a mixture between the Adam and Eve type people that were there in India at one point, and farmers from Iran, Eastern farmers from Iran that came together to formulate the Harappa civilization. So a lot of the common Indo-European speakers' genetic component they carry is mainly R1B or R1A. That's what they have today. But when they looked at the fossils and they sequenced the DNA, the R1B and R1A was absent. So it'd be impossible for them to speak a so-called Indo-European language. Not saying that R1B and R1A is Indo-European. That's the gene for Indo-European. No, I'm not saying that. I'm trying to say that most of the Indo-European speakers have a specific genetic component, and it's still lingering around to this day. And just studying the Harappa fossils kind of prove what I'm trying to say, if you guys feeling what I'm saying. That's it.
Hold on, before anyone responds, I'm gonna have to go. So because I do got work at 8:30 in the morning.
Okay, Ken.
So I'm going to go to sleep, and I'm gonna ask the ancestors and the spirits to give me a vision of that genetic marker that relates to the languages.
All right, Asar.
And I'm gonna give my results in the morning. Y'all have
All
a
right,
good
Asar.
night. Peace out.
Love.
All right.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
Oh nah,
Brother,
I'm satisfied as long as the audience understands that there's no biological reality to a language that a person speaks. Just like there's no race has no biological reality. As long as people understand that, then we can have a separate conversation on migration patterns and stuff, because that's really what Ngozi is doing a good job at explaining. But I just don't want people to be confused that you can look at a person's genetic genome mapping of their whole genome or whatever. You're not going to find not a single SNP that's going to tell you what language that person spoke. So as long as we're clear on that, then we could talk migrations, and I love it. I love to talk migrations of genetic population and all that good stuff. I'm with you on that. But let's just not confuse. Not to say that you're confusing, but I don't want anybody to be confused about correlation of language and genetics. That's
but I don't want to confuse the audience either. That never was my argument. My whole thing was, like I always said, again, just using the Harappa fossils, and I'm just going to use them. There's a genetic trail or a group. When you study these group populations, they have a language family and they carry genes. Not saying that R1B and R1A again is an Aryan gene, because again, linguistics or languages has nothing to do with genes. As Brother Ankh said, I'm mainly sub-Saharan African, but I live in America and I speak English. But I'm surrounded by nothing but the majority, which is predominantly Caucasian and European. That kind of tells a story of what went on and what happened. And he brought up Mexicans. Mexicans are mainly mestizos. They're mixed. They're a mixture between Paleo-Mongoloid groups that was here prior before and Mediterranean Europeans that came to dominate, the Latin America or whatever. So it makes sense of what's going on. And when you sequence their DNA, guess what? Most Mexicans got R1B M269, like a British man or a French man, but they mitochondrial DNA as Native American. So it makes sense when we go into the trail and say, oh, okay, he has a R1B M269 and he speaks Spanish. This is a common marker that Indo-European speakers had. The same way with so-called Afro-Asiatic, if we want to use that word. I like to call it some type of Eritrean language because it started in Africa anyway. But if we want to use that, most of the Afro-Asiatic speakers have a specific genetic component or a specific SNP, and it's E3B. Most of our Niger-Congo speakers, whether it's Bantu, which means people, or whether it's Volta Congo in the form of Yoruba or Igbo, or whether it's Alactic Congo in the form of Wolof or Mindi, they have a specific marker. They carry it. It's mainly EM2. And we all have common traits. Our human leukoantigens is the same. The way our metabolism is the same. Just looking at the patterns, it makes sense compared to modern Egyptians and ancient Egyptians. So I mean, I just followed the trail of the migratory route to help me make sense out of life of what was going on, you know, and what direction it was in. Oh, people went in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like I said, like, you know, that's good that to talk migrations and where the mutations occurred in the form of haplogroups and where they are and where they end up and follow the trail up to today. I'm saying that's excellent. I don't have any problem. But the issue is, and you already said it just now, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, that linguistics has no genetic reality. But let me say this. Like for me, for example, my paternal haplogroup is EP252, which comes out.
Oh, you saying that's the Yoruba E1B1A78? That's another nomenclature for it. Me and you got the same marker.
Right, exactly. That's on paternal side, and the maternal is L3 something. I don't off the top of my head, whatever the case is. And as far as my you know, autosomal DNA, that's you know the deep, that's the, you know, the Y and the maternal. But in terms of my recent ancestry, I have a percentage that's over in Kenya and all the way over in West Africa, both sides of the continent. So
but you know why though, right, King?
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, you know, I have a good understanding of why. But I'm saying, but here's my point with the audience though, is that I'm over here in America. I was born and raised speak English. I'm in American culture. I was cultivated through American culture, whatever. If I were to visit Africa and something were to happen to me as people dug me up, because of my haplogroups are from West Africa, primarily, they would not be able to tell that I was born and raised and was influenced by an American culture speaking English. The assumption on the surface would be that I'm one of the speakers that they're wherever I'm at, that whatever cluster that I cluster with at that period of time. And that would be a 100% error on the part of someone making that assumption. So I just want to illustrate the fact that language and DNA, there's no direct correlation whatsoever.
Can I ask a question, Ngozi?
Yes, go ahead, King.
Yeah. So your vocal cords, do your vocal cords have genetic markers that may affect language?
You know what do you? I mean, the FOXP2 gene is responsible for our vocal system. We have the FOXP2 gene that's responsible for communication through our vocals. Well, go ahead.
Right. So
it's a gene for that.
So certain languages, aren't certain languages depending on the structure of your vocals, your vocal cords?
Reggie,
far as
no,
not at all. No, the FOXP2, no, not at all. No.
So so for example, a child born in let's say Baltimore, if you put him in an African, if you put him with the let's say you put him with the Senegalese or you put him with the Twa, right? And they never, and that's their how can I say, that's their new language. Will they genetically be able to speak that language?
No, because if you get a baby from Baltimore and he's been in America all his life, and then you put him in the middle of Senegal, he don't even speak the same language at all.
No, if he's raised in that environment, will he function function as well as an indigenous based on his biology?
Yeah. If he was raised over there and he able to adjust, yeah. I mean, we see it all the time, King, in our communities. You get that one white boy that hang around us, and he learn our logo and learn our slang, and he grew up around us, and he act like us, and he learned survival tactics like us. I mean, if he was around us and he understand the surroundings, yeah, we ultimately we all human. Humans adjust and adapt. So it don't, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna adjust to whatever
the size of your vocal cords, and that has nothing to do with language.
No, because women anatomically, women's are different. If you look anatomically in the gender, so based on that logic, Reggie, then women would not be able to speak the same language as men, and so on and so forth.
So yes, that's correct. So no, the size of the vocal cords don't matter.
Reggie's just sleepy.
So remember, Reggie.
No, I'm not sleepy. I just asked a question.
No, that's a good question. But remember, Reggie, the language is based on the manner and place of articulation. So as long as you don't have a disease in the actual orifice of your mouth and tongue and stuff like that, then because some people have speech impediments, some people have lisp and stuff like that. or whatever, because of maybe where their teeth are shaped or the function of their tongue. That's where it gets a little tricky and different.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Oh man, Asar left.
So I overall, I'm gonna make sure I bring the work, man, so we can all build. And I mean, I just think it's important. So yeah, like Brother Wu, Brother Wuja, I didn't even know you and me had the same paternal marker. So that means paternally we're descended from the same people. So on our deep ancestral lineage paternally. So that's important. I didn't know you was EP252. That's predominantly found in Yoruba land.
So y'all friends now?
Everybody my brothers. I ain't got nothing against these brothers. We family. You know what I'm saying? We stand for the same thing. So it is what I think, the brother what's his name got the same mark as Sinjetti. Sinjetti's EP252.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So yeah, ultimately
go back to DE and it goes to EM96 and after that it's EM180 and then it gets EP252. So yeah.
Yeah. And we got more of a later strand of EM2 that developed, a later strand of EP252, but it's predominantly found in Yoruba man, and a few Eastern Bantu speakers have it as well, and a lot of Timay people have it paternally, EP252, which lets you know that a marker doesn't exist in one place, but it exists in close zones. You found it in Gabon and Yoruba land, you found a few Igbo people with it, and you found a few EP2 amongst Eastern Bantu speakers. It's all the way over there. But again, it was a Bantu expansion, so we can see the trail,
I was just reading an article, so it's from the Max Planck, and it's a article on language and genetics, and it's interesting. It says genetic methods have revolutionized research into many aspects of languages, including the tracing of their origins. Gene variants underlie individual language skills. Genetic predisposition might favor the evolution of structural features of language. I'll read more into it, but the Max Planck Institute is talking about genes and their capacity of I guess verbalization. So I'll read more into it. Maybe we'll come back to it.
That's dope. That's very important, Brother Reggie. That's what I'm saying. That's important right there. That's dope. And it makes sense.
Right. So that's why I was trying to figure out if you drop someone who was born in Baltimore, right, and you drop them into, let's say, the Twa people, they may have different ways in which to speak, and genetics may play into it. I'm not saying, I just looked at an article and I was just curious. So we'll come back to it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. For even right now, most native English speakers in America, if you were to go over to Saudi Arabia and try to speak Arabic and pronounce the full phonological inventory of their language, we can't do it just on the strength.
We can't do it at all. That's right. Just
on the strength of our mouths and articulation are not trained, but we can train ourselves to do it over time. So we all know this, but the thing is that there's no marker that will tell you what actual language. There's no marker for Spanish. There's no marker for German. There's no marker for Arabic, and so on and so forth. That's the major point. Even with the click languages, you can actually learn that. There's people who are Indo-European, like fully that you would think white, that will go to South Africa and learn the proper clicks of those particular languages of South Africa as well, and they would do it good. As a matter of fact, you can actually look up polyglots on YouTube right now, and you'll see where there's a couple of Europeans and Africans who are polyglots that speak 12 or more languages, and they run through the different languages, saying sentences and stuff, and it's amazing.
How come I can't roll my how can I roll my tongue like the Comedics when they say nutter?
No,
because you know what, I'm because a Comedic elder said that I was constipated, need some sun.
Talking about Baba Haru.
Well, somebody said that, and I'm just trying to figure out if I'm if the Comedics are more efficient. How can I say?
That's funny, yo.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure that out because someone
30, man. Look,
did something, and if
Hey y'all, just real quick. I got to run, man, but it's been real, and
Okay.
I enjoyed the
we all
earlier
running
discussion
shit.
between
right.
Joshua and Asar, and also this discussion here. So I want to say peace to the family, peace to the panelists, everybody on the panel. This is really good. Hopefully we can have these bills more often in the future too. So
That's right.
For
Run
sure.
into the duat. Run into the duat, man.
exactly. Hey,
Peace, power, and love.
hey, Rob, I'm going to go meet Yakub in his backyard. All right.
Yeah, y'all going all day, yo. Hey, yo, it was good building, man. We can finish it. I'm gonna make sure I get the paperwork to Asar. We gonna build, bro. This is important. I think it's important. I ain't build with y'all in a minute, and I was excited. So y'all know, like, when the mad scientist is, I just like to talk. I'm just here. I enjoy myself. So, this is a good build.
Yep. All right, man. Look, we out of here. Appreciate everybody in the chat room, man. Appreciate y'all stopping through. Check back tomorrow. Y'all gonna beat the brakes off of Double X. That's my man, but I gotta see him. Man. So I appreciate everything and everybody, man. Make sure you hit that Cash App, man. All right. The link is in.
Peace.
All right, man. Peace to everybody. Y'all already know what it is. And we out.
Power.
You funny guy, Reggie.
I'm not dark enough for some comedics.
You're funny. Reggie is a funny guy.
I am not dark enough. I didn't know they was gonna pull a color card on me.
You funny guy. Hey, Chef, where must be gone? Yeah, they hit you with the color card, bro.
He hit me hard with the color card. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? But that's just the way it goes when you don't agree with them, right? They go real low, right? So it's